Let's crack open a beer and share some thoughts.
Welcome to Opinions, and we are looking back over the year.
Whole of 2018.
Yes.
Has it already gone?
It's flown by, hasn't it? It really has.
I know this is a bit of a cliche comment, but the last time we did this, did we do it at mine?
I think we did.
So that was December in culture. A lot has happened since then.
So
I've got engaged, I've sold my house, and I've moved in with Michelle.
And we've got a new recording studio.
Yes. Blimey.
So
wow.
A lot to cheers there, and we are getting straight into the beers tonight, aren't we?
Well, there is a reason for that.
So we've got, first up, it's an annual tradition for us now that on our end of year show we drink the previous year's incarnation of Fuller's Vintage.
Yes, so Fuller's 2017 Vintage Ale, and being the professionals that we are, we both thought we'd have a little look at our previous check-in.
We did.
And I really don't know what's happened here, but I haven't checked it in, which tends to hint that I haven't actually had it, because I can't imagine me not checking it in.
I can't believe you've not drunk it.
Nor can I. I'm shocked. Whichever way it is, if I've forgotten to check it in, I'm shocked. And if I haven't had it, I'm shocked.
But I think it's leaning more towards the latter of the two there, isn't it? Because you said you've also checked Michelle's Untapped, and she hasn't drunk it either, and that would indicate that maybe you haven't drunk it.
We haven't had, but that's a bit odd.
It is odd.
I mean, I know, but I was a bit of a focus last year. It's 12 Beers of Christmas. We did do the first iteration of this, me and Michelle.
Yeah.
So maybe I lost focus on actually trying it. I should have done a bit of a side-by-side, really.
Maybe, yeah.
That was a bit remiss of me, wasn't it?
Just a little bit.
Anyway, what did you think of it when you had it a year ago?
I've checked it in twice. So they were both last year. The first time I did it, I gave it a 3.25. And I said you can taste the potential in it. It's all red fruits and twigs right now, but it's going to age well. And then the second time I did it, which I think was probably a few weeks later, I gave it a 3.5, and I said dark fruits, tangy, citrus, bitter finish. So
no, what do you know? What you had? What dispense that was?
That they were both bottles.
Both bottles. So you didn't get a chance to do it on cask at either, say, the obvious places, GBBF or LCBF, isn't it?
Yeah.
London Craft Beer Festival. I'm getting your initial comments about the twigs. I don't think that's really there.
That's gone.
That's gone.
That's completely gone.
So that sort of dusty, woody has gone. I'm getting those dark fruit flavours and on the aroma as well. I see. I'm a big fan of generally the Fuller's beers when they're quite young, because I think that complexity does kick in quite a way down the line.
Yeah.
Whereas this just feels like just fresh, a little bit raw, but it does sort of give you the idea where it might head to.
I agree with what you're saying. I think some of those dark fruits are still in there. Like you say, that twigginess, the woodiness is gone. What it's been replaced with is kind of an underlying caramel for me, almost like a bit of a millionaire shortbread type thing. A little bit of caramel, a little bit of biscuit, hints of chocolate in there.
Sort of providing a bit of the backbone for it.
Yeah.
So was this the first one which is done as for Georgina Young?
It should. Her signature should be on it if it was.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is the first of her iterations, then, isn't it?
Yes.
So you might see. Have a look at the back of the box. Right in the back of the label.
It's a bit tiny.
For two guys in their mid to late 40s.
While you're doing that, let me introduce the show that we're doing tonight, because it's slightly different from what we normally do. So we're going to be looking back over the year, and we're going to do it essentially 3 months at a time. So we're going to do 4 quarters of the year in beer, essentially. And as part of that, we'll be looking at some of the beers we've had, some of the Beery adventures, some of the podcasts we've recorded, and we'll also be doing, within each of those sections, a very condensed version of Golden Pints. So we're going to look at podcast of the year, our Beery adventure of the year, brewery of the year, and beer of the year within each of those. Alongside that, in addition to the Fuller's Vintage Ale that we're drinking, we're also going to be drinking the Fuller's and Marble collaboration of the Gale's Prize Old Ales.
Yep.
which have an average ABV of about 10.5%, 11%.
Yeah.
And there are 4 of those.
4 iterations, fairly much based on the 4 different barrels they were in.
Yeah.
Looking forward to trying those.
Yeah, and the whole theme of the show wrapped around that as well, if that wasn't enough, was based on a question that we had quite a while ago.
This was a long time ago.
Yeah, this came from Chuck Davey at Chuck Davey, who asked us a question about, do you buy beers to drink and enjoy them when you've bought them, or do you buy them with the intention of aging them for either their tastes to change or indeed particularly with the fullers for their value to increase? So are you buying them as an investment or are you buying them to drink?
Okay, now this is one of those, if anyone who watches American TV regularly where they do the 12 hours earlier after that bit, we recorded a show recently which you won't hear for another month on this theme, really.
We did, yeah.
That's quite a good question to have for us at the moment because we had quite a good discussion about that recently.
Indeed.
So going back to the Fuller's Vintage Ale, so yes, this is the first one that Georgina Young has really taken the lead on by the looks of it. It's a new American hop variety, Denali, used to give the beer a citrusy, pine-like flavour, and a new British malt variety, L'Oreal, combined with trusty British hops, Target and Goldings. The 21st century vintage ale is a well-rounded and balanced beer with Fuller's yeast adding the orange marmalade characters to it, which is what I think everyone sort of gets from it a lot of the time. We recommend it is enjoyed before December 2027.
So a few years on it, yeah?
There's a little while. I mean, we usually buy a couple or so, try fresh, try in a couple of years, that kind of thing, don't we?
Yeah, well, we've got into a habit of splitting a box of 12 between 3 of us, haven't we? So we get 4 each, and certainly my pattern has become now, I'll drink one as soon as I possibly can when I get it.
Yeah.
Generally have the second one on Christmas Day or as a drink, or Christmas Eve. Or
can you remind me to have my 2018 this year?
I will do. I'll nudge you. One goes away for a year later for the show, and then the other one goes alongside the other vintage ales in the collection of vintage ales that I will drink at some point.
Bottle over time.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Yeah. On point there, Steve. Look at you.
Indeed.
Segue.
Segue indeed. So, before we get into our first section, I'm just going to say already, based on my previous tasting notes and where this is at, I do think it's improved already in a year. And my rating on this is probably going to creep up by another 2.5. So on my third...
A 0.25.
0.25, yeah.
Oh, like you're going to go over 5 there.
No, a 0.25. So on the 3 tastings of this,
incrementally
it's increasing every time for me.
Judging by a few other people's comments that I saw when I was shocked at my own lack of check-in, you weren't alone in saying there's loads to come.
It just tasted a bit raw last year.
Whereas if I remember correctly, I think the 15 and 16, I think I had both of them fresh at GBBF and I thought they tasted really nice even then. I suppose sometimes with this kind of beer, there is going to be more to come on it.
Yeah.
I mean, your first score was 3.25. Still wasn't a disaster by any means.
No, absolutely not. And I think we'll see maybe a tiny spoiler here of what's to come later, but I've already tried the 2018 and I thought very highly of it already.
Oh, actually, you did, didn't you?
Yeah, so not quite. I might break Untapped with my next check-in of the 2018, but we'll come to that later. So let's get into our Beery review of 2018 by looking through January to March this year. So do you want me to give a bit of an overview?
Yeah. You kick off.
Feel free to jump in. So these are just highlights rather than any great detail. So from the point of view of the podcast, there were 3 real highlights that stood out for me in that period. The first one that we did wasn't actually classed as a Hopinions show. We did a show called The Tasting Room with where we was with Justin Mason as well. Okay. And we were basically just drinking because we'd been sent quite a lot of beers. And we wanted to kind of do a bit of a range of beers that we'd been sent, but also at the same time, I think we wanted to kind of test our abilities to purely review and talk about beer, rather than go off on the tangents.
How did we do?
I think we did quite well. It ran for about an hour and a half.
Oh well.
But in that show, we discovered a beer called Govinda by the Cheshire Brew House,
We talked about that episode.
Yeah.
Okay, I bought a shed load of that.
Which you immediately left the recording and ordered more of.
Before I got to the train station.
Yes, you were that impressed with it.
So all 4 beers we did on that show, so the Govinda, so there was 2 heritage beers, there was them sort of modern take, they're taking a bit of a modern IPA and the Scotch Ale, and I bought 4 of each of those.
We loved them all. We really enjoyed each of those.
And
beers.
I have to admit, I've been massively impressed with the beers I have tried from Cheshire.
And I think it's probably our first thank you of 2018 is to Shane, who has been very generous in the beers that he sent us. And we have enjoyed reviewing those. So, and we will look forward to hopefully one day making it up to the Cheshire Brew House, try some beers at the tap room.
I would love to try them from the tap.
Yeah,
definitely.
I'd love to try them on cask.
Yeah, the beers seem so well suited in my mind to cask.
Yeah,
so I think they'd be a glory.
Yeah. So that was one of the first shows of note.
That's a good shout.
The next one was Hopinions 56, The Dark Side, which was the collaboration that we did with Men Behaving Badly.
Snap. That was on my list of highlights as well. That was an epic evening, actually.
It was, and I will forever revel in the boys' faces when we whipped out the 26% Brewdog beer.
No, that was so basically it was a show of 2 halves, didn't we? They appeared on our show, and we appeared on their show. We did the recording in one night though, so 7 or 8 beers in total.
I think it was more. I think we bought 6 for our part of the show.
Yeah, and then we went to the pub.
Yeah, because as always, when we finished recording, we need more.
Need
beer.
Another drink, don't we? So we went to the pub near me at work, and I think was it Ashley was going to work the next day.
Yeah,
but they still had a hour and a half journey home, didn't they? Just by train.
Absolute madness.
But yeah, that was on my list of highlights as well.
Really enjoyed that.
And yes, we did really enjoy it, and I did also include that one as one of the submissions to the British Guild of Beer Writers as well, just because I thought it was such a fun episode.
Yeah,
I think that came across as well.
And how did we get on in that?
Actually, that's in.
We'll come to that. Yeah, we'll come to that.
There's only one Beery highlight in the last quarter.
In November's highlights, yeah. And then the final podcast that was a real highlight for me during that early part of the year was Hopinions 59, the pub where we went to the Vic Inn in Colchester.
Snap.
And we just chatted, and I think that's one of our first shows that we've done where the beer that we drank on the show played no part whatsoever.
Didn't really get a mention, to be honest.
It was just in the background. We were just enjoying it.
It was the 5 of us, wasn't it?
But we were just enjoying chatting to
Sheena,
Rich, Andy and Sheena
about
life in the pub.
Yeah, so it was a really informative conversation, actually, but it was just quite nice just to talk about the pub and the place. Well, personally, the pub that, I've grown to fall in love with, sadly moved away from being as close to it as I'd like. The people who work there and run it, but also just having a conversation about that place where my favourite times drinking are still in a pub. Yeah. In general.
It's where you have your best times, isn't it? So you're with people, you're with friends, and you're generally sharing the experience.
So, but it was some insightful moments in there as well.
Yeah.
Still not sure that anything they said makes me want to run a pub though.
Oh no! If you're ever questioning whether you want to run a pub, listen to that episode. It'll probably put you off.
Because they were honest. They have a plan. They're going through that plan, and so far so good for them. And they would get another mention certainly from me further down the list on this one as well.
So those are some of the podcast
highlights.
Shows. Yeah. What were some of your beery highlights during that period?
Okay, so
I couldn't actually find many for me.
Well, Michelle and I, for our birthday, went to the Fuller's Vintage Tasting that's hosted by John Keeling at the Bottle Shop in Bermondsey.
Oh, yeah, I remember being supremely envious about that and muting you both for the evening, I think.
And so we went through a range of the vintages, plus a couple of the Brewers' Reserves as well, plus, obviously, the chat from John Keeling as well. Andrew from River and Brews was there, so I spent a bit of time, and a couple of listeners. Steve was there, and I think there was another one whose name escaped me just for the moment. It was just a really fun evening. Had a few more beers afterwards, which again, obviously we needed after drinking all the Fuller's beers at the Bottle Shop.
A bit of a pattern there, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a bit of a theme, isn't there? So that was definitely a highlight for me back in February. A couple of weeks later, I hosted, in conjunction with our creative director Clayton, we hosted a work beer tasting. which was the modern history of IPA, and Matt Curtis came in. So we hired Matt for the evening, and he was very well received, as was the beers he had chosen as well. Lastly, for me, the Spirit of Sharing at the Irish Embassy, which I will openly admit was less about beer and more about just having a really good evening.
More about just drinking, wasn't it?
Yeah, but having a good time, because Wayne was there from the Irish Beer Snobs.
Yeah.
And, Jezza, who we've recorded a show with recently, was there as well. And that was just a really fun evening in the Irish Embassy back in March, wasn't it?
Yeah, I've got that on my list as well. And it was interesting recently when we did the Crimbo Crawl in Bristol. We were talking to Lou about that. And about the pub.
Well, we went to the pub trader afterwards.
And she literally said, yeah, you guys were absolutely wasted when you walked through the door of the Pelt Trader. She was like, how you felt you needed more beer? I don't know.
We didn't.
No.
Categorically.
But it was a great event, and it was great to enjoy an evening with Wayne as well.
Yeah.
Coming over from Ireland.
Yeah, it was just good fun, I have to admit, and I did get the chance to try a few whiskies which I wanted to sample as well. But it was, they were doing, when they did the cocktails, we could do like your little flavour wheel.
That's where
flavour.
it went wrong for me.
Is that where the wheels fell off?
The cocktails, yeah.
So the flavour wheel is where the wheels fell off.
Oh, it was either that, or it was that moment where I felt as I was being supremely clever, blending the white chocolate liqueur with coffee porter.
Right.
And because I thought I'd create this kind of amazing coffee drink.
Instead, you just
glass of alcohol.
It just disappeared. It? The rest of the evening just went.
Yeah,
but actually, that was good fun. So less about the beer, but just more about having a good crack.
Yeah, but
evening.
Drink responsibly, folks. Let's
make
sure not to forget that.
Yeah, basically, don't do what we do.
Yeah,
that would be the message, kids.
Yeah. One more highlight for me, beer adventure-wise, during that period would have been Winter Clayfest, which is our little extended bottle share gathering that we have twice a year now, where our creative director Clayton cooks amazing meat for us,
and melted cheese this year as well.
Yeah. So we have a winter event which is held at Matt's house, at the Half Pint Gents' house, because he's got a bar in his garden, and it means we've got somewhere warm to go when it gets cold. And then we have the Summer Clayfest main event in Clayton's garden, where he generally pulls out all the stops to make the most amazing spread that you've ever seen from a barbecue.
Never, even from day one in July 2015, the first Clayfest, I can't say anything about the food other than high praise.
No, it's brilliant, and the effort that he goes to as well.
Oh yeah, he doesn't just say, right, on the Saturday morning, what have I got?
I'll go out and get some burgers.
The planning starts way in advance.
Yeah, that'll do. So that's January to March.
That is January to March. I mean, I when I was looking back, I don't know about you, I thought it was a bit of a slow start to the year.
Very slow.
And then I started looking at a few things. I thought, it wasn't actually as slow as I thought it was, because you found a few podcasts, highlights, a couple of events. So we're only talking 3 months, and let's face it, January should have been a bit of a slow month anyway, but we did a couple of recordings. We had an event, we went to a thing at the Vic as well, so it built up quite quickly in the end. I was quite surprised how many things we did manage to fit in.
No, I agree. I mean, if you think that we're now releasing every 2 weeks, it means that in a 3-month period we should be looking at 6 shows.
Yeah, because we had we have a little bit of a break round Easter, Christmas, summer, so we hadn't hit Easter by then.
No, because Easter was quite late this year. So
it was early-ish in April, but that first quarter we didn't hit it. So So our first award, Steve,
podcast of the year. So do you want to go first?
Yeah, I think we took ourselves out the running for this one, didn't we?
I think it might have been far too far up our own backside. If we'd awarded this to ourselves. So
joking aside, are we doing winner or honourable mentions first?
Well, I think we've both taken a slightly different approach to this. So I've got I've basically got shout outs for people that I want to mention.
Yep.
Then I've got honourable mentions, and then I've got a winner.
Okay, we'll do your shout outs first.
Okay,
then we'll both do honourable mentions, and then we'll dive in with our winners.
Okay, so in the podcast category, shout outs for Beers Without Frontiers and the Sheffield Hopcast, purely for maintaining that regional focus of their shows, and for bringing information that otherwise we may not hear. Also a shout out for one that we completely off of your radar, Off the Hop Rope, which is a wrestling and beer podcast that I've discovered by the wrestling sommeliers, they call themselves. Three fellas who are part-time professional wrestlers in the States and who also have a love of beer. So basically what they do, each show pairs a beer with a wrestling match. And it's just perfection for me. I love it.
What, a wrestling match? I mean, I've got no inch about a wrestling match which is like a historical wrestling match?
Yeah, a past wrestling match. So
like maybe a great... So if you're doing it for boxing, you might pair a beer with the Rumble in the Jungle kind of thing.
Yeah. They'll just choose one match which they think goes well with the beer that they've chosen to...
That's quite cool.
To drink. So I really enjoy that. So those are my shout-outs. So while I'm here, I'm going to get straight into my honourable mentions as
Go
well.
for it.
So I've got two here. Firstly, Three Boys, Three Beers, who I discovered this year and I've enjoyed listening to immensely. They've got a great mix of comedy and humour and basically just enjoying their beers. And the other one is, regardless of all the shit and the ribbing that I give them online, I do enjoy listening to Rhythm and Brews. I think Andrew and Luke work really, really well together. And although their musical choices generally aren't what I would choose, I think they put out great content.
Brilliant. Before we get into my honourable mentions, what's your final thoughts on the Fuller's 2017, Steve?
I think it's already become really drinkable. It's softened right down. I'm not going to say the carbonation has died right down in it as well. It's not flat,
no,
but it's not lively
it's
either.
Very light carbonation, now, isn't it?
But it's really smooth and it's really easy to drink. And I do think it's improving. I think this will carry on getting better and better. This one, I can see this one going probably full on really sweet barley wine in a few years.
I'd still love to know how, on the theme of what we, the question was, how am I supposed to know when the peak moment is? That's always, I think that's always going to be my thing, because as much as I enjoyed and I thought it was a beautiful drink, the 1997, I didn't know, because I'd never tried it before. I had no idea if I was drinking it at the right time or I'd gone past the peak.
Benchmark, did you? Yeah.
I had no benchmark for it. Now, got a bit of a benchmark now for the 2017 we've just finished. And I'm thinking, they say till 2027, and I'm thinking in my head, how much better can it get? I still want some of those fruity notes to be there rather than it goes that full on, starting to go towards more the feel of the barrel kind of thing. So that's quite interesting how you pick and choose that side of things. Right, I have opened the first of the prize old ales.
I think let's leave that just to breathe a little bit.
Okay.
While we finish off the giving of our first award.
Okay.
Or awards, because it might not be that we might not agree with.
Yep, you've given a few shout outs anyway. So my honourable mentions go to two podcasts that invariably I not only download pretty promptly, but I listen to pretty promptly as well. And the first one is our friends who were guests on the show on the post Crimbo Crawl, Beers Without Frontiers. Again, largely because of what you said is the local feel they give to it, but it's the interaction between the three people on there as well, the three or four people depending who's on there. And also that they are going to places which I've never been to, never heard of. But the more they talk about them, the more it piques my interest, and I'm thinking, I wouldn't mind visiting those.
Yeah, it makes you want to go to the places they're talking about.
And the time we spent with Simon and Vicky both on last year's Crimbo Crawl, saw them at Peak Ender, and this year's Crimbo Crawl. They're lovely people. It was really nice to spend some time with them. And a bit like you, Rhythm and Brews. Yes, the music, definitely not my choices, but they're much more up with all the different genres and scenes than I am anyway. But again, it's the interaction between the two of them. When you first meet them, they are very different people.
Oh, you would never put them together as a...
But they do work so well together, and they are a joy to listen to. Their end of year show I thought was really, really good. Yeah, there's some really good comments in there. They did the music wasn't actually too bad either, and I thought the one they did with John Keeling earlier in the year, was quite a good one as well. Actually, that was quite a nice little conversation between the three of them.
I do agree with the end of the year show. I actually think I'd go as far as saying I think that's probably their best show to date as well,
Yeah.
in terms of the content, the way they looked back on things, the way they spoke about things, the way they tried to also pair music from the year as well. I just think it came together really, really well.
Yeah, and they're probably at their best when it's the two of them
Yeah, absolutely.
as well, and it worked really well.
Yeah. So, winner then. Who's your podcast of the year going to?
Men behaving badly.
Same here. I similar to what you said in terms of when these shows pop up, you download them. For me, as soon as there's a new Men Behaving Badly show, it actually goes to the top of my listen list because it's the first show I want to listen to. I love it that they're still on a journey of discovery, even 12 years on from when we first found, 12 months on from when we first found them.
And this isn't to put them down in any way, so guys, I'm sure you know that already, but just the order they did in the 4 Cloudwater beers, which was just completely the wrong order, to my mind anyway. But it's the interaction between the three of them. So I like the fact that they're keeping it local. I like the fact that they want to go and speak to some, local breweries and stuff like that. But for me, their peak shows, or when it's the three of them, especially when they go off on a bit of a tangent as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes, they went back to doing those answering the questions from Twitter from the Cannonball Run show.
Yeah, I love it that they decided to finish that off.
Yeah.
Although we may have to bring up the whole Loftgate thing.
Yeah, I mean, what was all that? That's a lie.
I've never been in a loft, and apparently he has.
Yeah, and you've forgotten.
Yeah. So congratulations to Men Behaving Badly for winning. I suppose. Well, in that case, seeing as we both agreed on that would be the Hopinions podcast of the year. Is Men Behaving Badly?
And if we had a tankard, we'd present it to you.
We would indeed. But well done, lads, and just keep going the way you're going, because you're an absolute must listen.
Yeah, and the same for all the other shows that both myself and Steve have shouted out to. Please carry on. Keep doing the regular content. Keep doing what you're doing, especially the ones that when you interact so well with each other.
Yeah.
Just keep that going, because that's what I really enjoy, is that interaction. It feels like a conversation's going on.
Indeed.
So should we say cheers to them?
Let's cheers them in the manner that they do with each drink.
Exactly.
They cheers somebody. So cheers, Men Behaving Badly.
Oh, cool.
Whoa. Wow.
Sorry. That probably didn't help anyone at all. So this is, well, you're having a bit of a snifter there. So this is George, Gale & Co. Prize Old Ale, Barbera Barrel Aged.
Okay. So firstly, what's Barbera?
That I don't know. I was hoping you may have had some research on that one, Steve.
No.
Why do you have a look? 10.4%. So this is the lowest ABV of the whole set. Doesn't really tell you much. This was done as part of the 20th birthday collaboration series, but doesn't really say much about Barbera Barrel Age.
This is full on Brett on the nose for me. Brett Flanders Red.
Flanders Red, yes.
Little bit of Rodenbach, a little bit of Duchess.
Oh yeah. Another one, Duchess. Yeah.
Going on in that.
Yeah, because the Duchess has more of that little bit of a woody nose as well, doesn't it?
Yeah. Let's give this a try. I'm still trying to find out what Barbera is, by the way.
The only time I can think of Barbera is the old cartoons, Hanna-Barbera cartoons. No luck.
I can't read and talk and drink and do things.
What's your initial thinking about the flavour? Because
the flavour's really strange.
It's got quite a good burn though, isn't it?
There is a burn going on there. There's a boozy after tone to it. And again, it might be that we're doing these beers a little bit young. I mean, when they became available, I bought them with the intention of them featuring on a show at some point, because I always wanted to do these beers on a show. We've done them tonight. It might be that these just soften off a little bit with a bit more age on them.
Doesn't say particularly. It says so the tasting notes they've got here: darker and slightly hazy ruby red hue, a less acidic nose with rich vinous fruit, creamy vanilla, oak, smoke and gentle spicy hops. Okay.
I agree with all of that.
Yeah, acidic notes build in the mouth with pronounced oak. I'm definitely getting that as it goes down.
Yeah.
That bit, almost not quite acid burn, but you definitely know you're drinking something boozy here. Warming alcohol, tart fruit, oak, vanilla, juicy malt. Yeah, I'm getting all of that. Spicy hops combined with long, complex finish. It's definitely got a long finish.
Just goes on. I mean, that's going to be a real sipper.
We will definitely have to have a look because the other barrels, I know the names.
Yeah.
That one, no idea.
I think neither of our phones are available to us at the moment.
No.
So we'll research that as the show goes on and we'll come back to it. So let's get into the next quarter. So let's have a look at April to June. So some of the podcast highlights in here for me were Opinions 62, Are We Coping? Which is the show that we did to release around mental health.
That's the one we did with Hop Stuff, wasn't it?
About stress in the workplace with Hop Stuff, where we tried some of their beers. Really enjoyed doing that show. Really enjoyed the first time that we ever kind of went a little bit serious on our subject matter as well.
But it was appropriate.
It was, and it worked really well.
Yeah, and I don't enjoy hearing or reading or seeing where people are having problems, but at the very least, people should feel that there's an outlet.
Yeah, I think it helped that we had James with us as well, who's obviously an employer and has to consider some of the issues that we were speaking
especially
about.
As it's got bigger as well.
Yeah,
his brewery and his tap rooms and bars have got bigger as well. Yeah, I found that really informative. Actually,
I really enjoyed that show.
Yeah.
Opinion 64, Regulate, which was where we went and spoke to the Portman Group as well. We included the interview with the Portman Group on the show.
God, this year's gone by.
Yeah.
Seriously, that was in the first half of the year.
Again, really insightful to sit down and to listen to what they do and the approach that they take.
That was actually really interesting. I mean, it was. I know we had a lot. I think people appreciated it. I think listeners appreciated what we did, but I don't know if anyone's mind changed about what they do.
I don't think so at all. But we informed.
Yes, and I'm better informed.
Yeah, I know a little bit more about what they do now.
Rather than just these two words, Portman Group.
Yeah.
So I feel better informed about it.
Yeah. And then the last one in this period that I want to mention is Opinion 65, Refreshes the Parts, which was where we spoke in length about the Beavertown sow.
Well, I mean, it was big news.
Yeah,
and I think
massive news. I mean, I think I remember us talking about it on probably that show and the show either side of it as well. It wasn't just a single show for us.
No, because Bitter Englandness as well.
Yeah,
there was still plenty of comments coming through. Probably still one of the more unexpected ones to have happened for a brewery that size in the craft beer scene in the UK.
Oh, I think so. Yeah, without a doubt.
Although, I think some people did predict such a case could happen for that particular brewery.
Yeah.
No names mentioned.
But it's interesting as well, though, that with that particular show as well. So I've got some stats here to
Steve loves some stats.
Some podcast stats for the year. That's now our most downloaded show ever, which is quite interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's kind and it's still getting a lot of downloads as well. Now I don't know whether that's because we essentially used a trademark phrase.
So at some point we're going to be sued and we'll be shutting down.
I do hope. Well, we can very easily change the name of the show. But yeah, so that's quite interesting.
That was interesting, but we had so much feedback.
We did.
I mean, we had the news. There was the Logan extensive blog post, which had a lot of words. Didn't quite say so much.
Yeah.
There was our thoughts on it, but we had so many thoughts from our listeners and our people who follow us on Twitter as well. That I think what we tried to do was try and give it a bit of time to breathe, that particular episode as well. It was good fun doing it. I'm still surprised it's the most downloaded one.
So am I.
Because I think it was good, but I'm not sure if it's our most entertaining.
No, but I think maybe what we did in that show, I think what we did particularly well, and I'm sorry if this sounds like we're blowing smoke up our own arses, but we did do it well, was we provided a balance in terms of, it's kind of, this is the people that are for it, this is the people that are against it, these are the views in the middle, and we then put our views in there as well. And it's fair to say that we listen to a lot of podcasts between us.
Yeah.
And at that time, during this last year, this was being covered a lot everybody was talking about it, and
Yes.
everybody was talking about it for a long time as well.
Yeah.
And I think people still talk about it now as well.
To be honest, I mean, I was playing darts at lunchtime today. A guy was leaving who's been with my bank for 20 years, and we went to play off darts, and they had neck oil in there, and straight away there was a Heineken comment.
Yeah.
People still recognise that they did take them over, essentially, or bought into them, for want of a better phrase. People do still talk about it. But yeah.
It's not stopped us from drinking Beavertown, though, has it?
No, and I still love the fact that people still have varying different opinions about it. Beavertown will get a mention further on in my highlights of the year. Anyway.
They will for me as well. So, what about Beery Adventures for this quarter for you? What were your highlights?
Well, we do have a bit of a break. So I think you've covered the shows because we do have that bit of Easter. So that first 3 weeks of April sort of don't really touch the sides with us. Michelle and I went on a cruise again over Easter, and we returned to a beer shop in Cherbourg. We'd already been into Cherbourg last year and done what we thought were the touristy bits, so we went straight to the beer shop. And we stayed there until she had something going on in the afternoon, at which point I said, well, let's go to the pub show in Liverpool, and drank some beers there. So beers in Cherbourg, beer with a Z at the end, and Christabel, who runs that, looked after us very nicely. Not being content with the cheese board, we had the cheese and meat board this time.
Nice.
And settled in there, had quite a nice time. But also on the cruise, we discovered what was at the time the fairly recently released Harvey's Beers in Cans, which had some really nice artwork. But more importantly, the 3 beers were really rather nice, including their lager, which was rather refreshing. And nice that it was available in most of the bars on the ship as well. So you have like the British bar, which has quite a good selection of different beers, and then the other bars have anything on that bar doesn't appear anywhere else. And Harvey's seems to have a bit of a contract with Pinot, so it's quite nice to have.
And being a creature of habit, I imagine your check-ins for all 3 of those beers went through the roof. During that week.
I couldn't check them in when I wanted to, because when you're at sea and you've paid for the internet, only one of you in the room can use the internet at one time, and even then it can dip in and out as well. Yeah. But yeah, of course I checked in each one.
Obviously.
It's me.
Yeah.
But as good as that was, probably one of the big highlights was the weekend in Manchester.
Yeah, I've got that as one of my highlights for
So we went there, Michelle joined us, and the snobs came over.
Brilliant weekend, just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and so we got there on the Friday evening, dumped our stuff, 10 o'clock. Oh yeah, we went and have a few drinks, straight down to Brewdog.
Yeah, just for a couple.
Yeah, and it was just the right number of people. Yeah. The snobs already had a booth, so it took the right amount of people. It was just a lovely evening. And then on the Saturday, straight down to the railway arches to do track and Cloudwater. I think we went for like Sonoma first of all. The bulk of us.
Yeah.
Apart from Wayne,
who went straight in on a double IPA.
Yeah. What else would you do at 5 to 12?
The man is a machine.
He is a machine. I think our wheels were okay, to coin a phrase, until we went to see Steve at B&O.
Yeah, and then he proceeded to jack us up, loosen the nuts, and remove the wheels.
First beer. Oh, here's a Truman's No. 1 barley wine.
Oh, no, from the wood.
From the wood.
Yeah.
Tasted absolutely divine, really drinkable, but was quite a decent percentage, wasn't it, as well?
Yeah.
And what was that? 2 o'clock in the afternoon? Because we'd already been to grub at Manchester as well.
It was still early on in the day.
It was still light, wasn't it? So, and the rest of the day was just such good fun. We went into the Marble Arch, we went to the Pilcrow, finished off in Cafe Beermoth.
Yeah, you and I left the rest of the group because we had had enough.
We decided we were going to walk on, and everyone else had to follow us.
Yeah. Apparently we left mid-conversation as well, which still makes me laugh. It really does.
And in one pub, we shirked all the Northern beers and said, "Oh, we'll have Colonel, please."
Yeah, as you do.
That was a fantastic weekend, that was. Just a couple of other ones for me. I went to Krakow with my youngest brother, and turns out they've got quite a nice little craft beer scene kicking off there. Krakow's a lovely little city as well, and it's Central Eastern Europe. It's got some lovely buildings, and then tucked away just in a few places is just some lovely little beery delights. Only a couple of hours to get there as well from most parts of the UK. It's well worth a visit if you get a chance. Not too expensive, and especially if you're going out for eats as well. Last one for me, Czech Beer Day at the Czech Republic Embassy.
I've got that too. That was a real highlight.
The outside of the building is to coin a phrase, a 1960s concrete carbuncle.
Yeah.
Over sort of Kensington Way, where a lot of embassies are. You go inside, and there's just like this sort of bit of a bland room with a few bars. And then you go out into this little garden oasis.
Which was a sun trap.
It was a sun trap. We were actually looking for the shade, weren't we?
Yeah.
And basically, we drank fairly much, exclusively Czech Pilsner for the bulk of the day.
Yeah. Which we did begin to tire of until we found the bar on the way out that was doing of a craft beer selection.
Yes. Was that like the one that could serve 6 beers in one go? That machine?
Yeah.
Looked like Wallace and Gromit had built it. But that was a lovely little highlight. Thanks to the Czech trade for inviting us to that one. And it was just a nice day. Got to chat to the guys from Budweiser again as well. Yeah. They were over there doing a roaring little trade in the corner over there in their sun trap. That was really guys. It's just one of those things where I didn't think I'd get a chance to do that kind of thing.
No, I didn't. And that's 2 quarters in and 2 embassies we've visited.
Yes,
as well. So we're doing quite well on our passports for the year. So for this particular period of time, we're going to look at for the award. Here we're going to look at the Beery Adventure of the year, which we did have some feedback on this week's poll for as well. So we'll go through the feedback in terms of some of the suggestions from folk on Twitter, and then we'll do ours. So we've got some shout outs for a number of things. So the Vessel Beer Fest, organised by Vessel in Plymouth. Man with a Beer Fridge at With Fridge and Alex Armstrong at Bodie 15 both voted for this new festival being the first craft beer festival on the south coast. We then had, and again, let someone blow the smoke in our direction, will you? 2 nominations for the Crimbo Cruel. 18.
Yeah, I was quite chuffed to see that.
So was I.
Thank you very much,
actually,
guys.
From Paul at UNRCD and Michael at Mick McGrotty. Sorry, Mick. But yeah, it was nice to get a mention. For the
but we'll go into more detail that when we get into the last month of the year. The Lockkey Beer Con in Birmingham, Jim Deves at Devesy and Johnny Beerboy at Johnny Beerboy, and then a couple of people mentioned Peakender as well. So the Hopspot podcast at Hopspot UK and Rob at Robbie Ram 7. So quite a selection of events. From I mean, to be honest, I hadn't heard of the Vessel Plymouth one at all.
It was the same weekend as Crimbo Crawl. Probably why.
Oh, right, yeah, bypassed me completely then.
So some honourable mentions. So these were a couple of events that just got a couple more votes than the shout-outs, if anybody's wondering on our system of shout-out honourable mention winner. So London Craft Beer Festival, Alicia Hattersley at Alicia_Hat, Beerbore at Beerbore, and Chad Michaels at MC Hadders 555. I'm going to talk about London Craft Beer Festival a bit later because it was one of my highlights of the year. Craft Beer Calling up in Newcastle. Aaron at Saltwell Mackham.
Really want to go to that one, yeah.
So do I, but it always falls during October half term.
Yeah.
Ian Hay at I Hi Hay and Neil Hayden at Neil Hayden 73. So those were the honourable mentions. And then I'll let you give the award, mate, for this one, I think, rather than me just rabbiting on all the time.
So we've this is maybe a bit of a surprise award that people weren't expecting, but this is the Listener's Choice Award.
Yes.
And
I'm not surprised at who's won it.
This really, I mean, this gets a lot of love, I think, every year anyway.
All over Twitter.
But
it's one of the most loved events in
but
the
this
UK.
year especially seemed to get so much good feedback. In fact, devoid of any negative feedback that I've seen anyway.
I've never seen any negative feedback.
So I'm going to just shout out the people who nominated it. So, John Rogers at JM Rogers 2000, Knits with Beer at Knits with Beer, Sean OTD at 19 Irish Dragon, Joe Juicenip at Buntiness. I'm glad that wasn't too far into the show.
Great names in here.
David Martin at RDG Martin, and Zoe Pearson at No Sins for Me. And the winner is the Salford Beer Festival.
Yep. Or also known as, what is it, #ISBF5.
Yeah, was this one. So, and so Sean as a service at Swarasy_22.
Yep, Sean was out with us on Crimbo Crawl.
Yep, is the one for me, just because it's the only time of year I see a lot of people who through beer I've become close to, it feels like coming home. If you're saying it feels like coming home to a beer festival,
That's a massive compliment.
That's a massive compliment, because generally most people say that when they're talking about their local pub or something like that.
Yeah.
To say it about a beer festival, that essentially is still quite a young beer festival.
Yeah, well, 5 years in.
Yeah, I'd say, it's not
almost the same. Well, same age as Indie Man.
True.
Almost.
I think there's no bigger compliment than that. So congratulations to Salford Beer Festival again. Whenever I see the chatter on Twitch about this one, I wish I was visiting.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I mean, this year it clashed with Crimo Crawl.
Yeah.
So, but we did have some absolute warriors who had been at the Salford Beer Festival on the Friday and then drove down
to Bristol.
And Mark, the gas man, got a bus home at like 5 o'clock in the morning to then come out on the Crimbo Crawl with us.
Yeah, I mean, that's dedication for you.
That is dedication.
But that shows just how much, even though they wanted to come to the Crimbo Crawl, they did not want to miss the Salford Beer Festival either.
No.
And they're not exactly around the corner from each other this year.
No, they were pretty much opposite ends of the country. So I'm going to jump into my shout-outs and my honourable mention now, and then I'll let you have yours, and then we'll do our winners. So my shout-outs this year go to London Craft Beer Festival, a festival that I was invited to on a freebie ticket. Still apprehensive about the whole all-in ticket, which is what it was this year, but I had a fantastic time there, and I must admit it did begin to change my mind in terms of the all-in tickets and the way they had organised it.
Do you think the change of venue helped as well?
I think so. I think the more space, the fact that you could get served fairly quickly, the pours were a decent size. You didn't feel like you was rushing to drink your beer.
Okay, well, I mean, that's good. I mean, that's a positive experience then.
Yeah. Also, shout out to Indie Man. I made my return this year and thoroughly enjoyed it again after taking a year off.
Yeah, you did the day trip with Clayton, didn't you?
Yeah, always remains very special in my heart, Indie Man. I do love going to visit that. And my honourable mention, goes to Peak Ender. It was just a fantastic experience for us to go and do the live show up there, but it was also great to visit it and to experience what it's all about. And I'm so chuffed that next year's event falls on a weekend where I'm free. So I'm going to be going and I'm going to be camping and I'm going to do the whole weekend. I'm going to do the whole experience. I'm going to do the full-on Peak Ender experience next year.
I mean, that is my honourable mention as well.
Okay.
The Bakewell, beautiful setting, loved, great visiting there. Doing the live podcast with everyone, and to have a full house as well.
Yeah,
the chance to get some really good Q&As going with the crowd. Simon and Rob from Thornbridge giving us some really. There was no yes or no answers.
Insight. There
was some really good information there. The hour also flew by. I drank almost as much dry pour as it's possible for one human being to try and consume in the amount of time we were there. And the only thing that let it down was its damn popularity.
That was the one thing that stopped it from winning this award for me was the queuing at the bars, which couldn't be helped.
No, and I think I've got no doubt, having spoken to them as we were leaving, and what I feel Thornbridge are all about is that, especially with their small packaging now with the cans, I think they'll have the main bars, but I think there'll be some places to get the cans.
Can bar.
I reckon there'll be more than one can bar. There might be like when you used to go to the cinema or the theatre,
an ice cream
wanting around with them.
Tray.
Why wouldn't you? Because apart from everything else, that's a whole load of money not being made.
It's sunny. Give me a cold can of Jaipur or Florida Vice, and I'm going to be a happy man.
Yeah. Even if I'm holding it while I'm in the queue.
Or next summer, cans of Lucas. That's what they've just got to walk around with cans of Lucas, and everyone will be happy.
Because we know that they'll do them at a fair price as well.
Yeah.
But I thought the whole, like I said, apart from being too damn popular, the experience was wonderful. I think you'll have a really interesting experience because obviously we went with our families essentially.
Yeah.
I think if you get the opportunity to go, as yourself, so you're not working and you haven't got your boys to look after, I think it'd be interesting what you think of it, going for like a couple of nights, camping on site and experiencing literally the whole shebang.
Yeah, I'm going to put this out now to anyone that is planning on going next year, that I know that's going to be there. I'm going to be camping near you because I'm going to want friends for the weekend. So,
all right. So this year was really popular. However, next year
no one's going.
No one's going.
Yeah. Right. So I'm going to go in with my award first on this one. So my beery adventure of the year, and we've not got to it yet because we've not got to that quarter yet, but was our visit to International Stout Day in Dublin, which was just it was an experience and a half.
Which we will go into more detail.
We will, but there's a lot of ground that we don't need to go over because that was a fairly recent show that we did as well.
But yeah, I mean, just so everyone knows, me and Steve haven't discussed our winners, our runners and riders, and our nominations at all. So that it was a bit, interesting for us listening as well. And I have gone for the same one as well because it was an amazing experience.
Yeah.
But I still keep coming back to, and this is the only thing I'll say at this stage, is just everyone we met, everyone who was just so good, so passionate, and fun.
Yeah, everybody loves what they do.
Yeah,
it's pure. And yeah, I mean, I know we've said it before, but we are really grateful to Guinness for looking after us for that weekend.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It was a fab weekend. So again, the Hopinions award for the Beery Adventure of the Year goes to International Stout Day.
International Stout Day, cracking day. Final thoughts on the first of the prize old ale iterations that we've drunk.
It's softening as you get through it. There's still there's a real booziness to it.
Yeah, I think that's just us getting used to it, sort of, because I think the boozy note.
Good job, because there's another 3 of these to come.
Because I think that boozy note is still there. I think the vintage is 8.5%. Because it's quite light, quite young, quite fruity. I don't think it quite tastes the 8.5%. I'm in no doubt drinking the first prize old ale, but I'm drinking a bit of a bigger beer here.
Oh, you know it's a big beer.
Yeah, it's not hiding, it's not pretending.
No,
it has got a complexity to it, and I think yes, even though it was brewed at the start of 2016, spent plenty of time in the barrel, then bottled, secondary fermentation because it's got a bit of yeast in it as well. I reckon there's still more on that.
I mean, we say it so often, don't we? Oh, this doesn't drink its ABV. This is nowhere near its ABV.
This one.
It's wearing its colours on its sleeve, this one.
Yeah, it's not hiding. And I quite like that sometimes.
Yeah.
I think sometimes the bigger beers should advertise what they are.
We're on to the summer then. So we're going to look at July through to September. And to kind of soundtrack this, almost, we've got the next prize old ale. Which one have we got now?
Okay, so I think we've decided to go up in by ABV.
It's the only sensible way to do them, I think.
So this is the Bourbon Barrel Age coming in at 10.6%. Now, fortunately, we do a bit more familiar with bourbon, I think.
We are, and that instantly is a completely different nose to the last beer.
Very. I was expecting a bit more like that vanilla oak nose that you often get in bourbon.
Bourbonness.
Yeah. Not really there. It smells actually quite soft.
It does. Cheers.
That's smoother. It's a bit lighter in colour as well. The other one was a bit darker.
It's a lot smoother. There's not as much of the burn. There's not as much of that Flanders redness to it that we picked up last time. This is kind of more approaching a classic kind of barrel aged.
Yeah, I mean this does feel a bit more rounded, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So let's have a little look. Just if people can hear a bit of paper. This is all the notes that Steve does for the show, so that we remain professional.
Well, while you're having a look through that, shall I go through some of the highlights from July to September? So, from a podcast point of view, I think this is where we had some of our best shows this year. Like some of the ones that I really enjoyed. So we had Hopinions 68 Liquid Bread, which was where we did the Trappist beers, and we got our first taste of the Tint Meadow. Yeah,
and that's where Danny, the ale lady, very kindly went over to see the monks.
Yeah, and got us a fantastic and still pretty exclusive interview with Father Eric.
And lovely interview. And I think as good as the interview was, we did quite a few comments about like the noise of the birds and the sheep in the
just
background.
sounded so peaceful.
It was like one of those things where people say, "Well, I listen to it relax in the bath and stuff."
Yeah.
But it was really nicely done, and we can only thank again Danny for making the trip out there, talking to Farmer Eric, and sending the beers through to us as well.
And the glassware to go with
it.
As well. So.
And it was a beautiful beer.
It was. And I've got a bottle hiding away in my cellar.
Oh, do you know what I got? My ex-colleague David, who I think I mentioned once or twice on the show, because as one of his presents I'd bought him the Fuller's Tour, and he invited me to go with him, which was a bit of a win. He came down to meet up, have a bit of a catch-up with people in the city, and he said, "I don't know whether you've had this or not." Plonked a tin meadow. I went, "Brilliant! I've now got one to age. Thank you."
Excellent. So you've got.
And before he was able to grasp that meant I'd already had one. I'd already taken it away.
Yeah, in the pocket.
It's gone.
You've never seen that.
That's mine.
Yeah.
That was definitely a highlight. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, and then the next show that we did straight after that was the live show from Peakender, which we've already spoke about.
Already mentioned, so we won't get into too much detail.
Yep.
Just to reiterate, great fun.
Yep, and then we had Opinion 71 Sour Face, which was where you took me on a journey through sour beers and where we had a bit of a play with Periscope at the same time.
That was our first play with Periscope.
It was, yeah. And I think it was because of that we decided that we'd start doing the live kickoff shows before we record to kind of talk to our audience and to get a little bit more interaction with people as well.
Because also, I mean, it is 4 days between recording and the show going out as well. So it's quite nice, a bit more instant. And obviously a few listeners were curious to see how you'd react to some of the beers I was going to present you with. And obviously what I was trying to do with that journey was build you in. It would have been so easy to pick 6 or 7 proper paint stripping, face manoeuvring sours.
Yeah.
To get your what we like to class as Steve Sourface. But I saw no benefit to that at all. So my plan was to build all the way through. And I'd say by and large, it was a fairly successful outing, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd agree.
I don't think I've changed your heart to mine so far.
I'm still not rushing out and buying sours.
No, I don't think you've gone and bought a case of the stuff afterwards. No. But I still think we've got perhaps a bit more mileage where we can maybe do a round 2 of that.
I think Sourface 2,
the sequel. Be quite good fun, that.
I'm up for it. I think it's good to revisit these things from time to time.
That'd be very good. I have no other podcast highlights because they would have been my 3 anyway. Yeah. They were great fun.
And for me here, the Beery Adventures. I mean, I think we've already covered 2 of them off. So Peakender was fantastic. London Craft Beer Festival, which I said I really enjoyed, and it began to change my mind. The only other one I've got in here is was our summer edition of Clayfest, which was just us in Clayton's garden, eating great meat, drinking great beers, and just having a good time with friends.
We're decent weather this year.
Yeah, first time ever
since the first one.
Yeah.
Before I go into a few notes on the beer we're drinking. So. Flaring ruby red colour. Again, I think that's quite good. A big acidic horse blanket nose. I didn't really get that. And I didn't really get the oak and vanilla notes that they refer to here as well. Warming whiskey notes on the palate. Getting that.
That's there.
Tart fruit, rich malt, spicy hops. A little bit. But the oak and vanilla, they quote this a couple of times, but I don't really get the oak and vanilla at the moment.
I think there are hints of it there. But it's not overpowering. Now, bearing in mind that the notes that we're reading from here were put together by Roger Protz back when these beers were released as well. So these tasting notes were, as these beers were almost fresh into the bottle, we're drinking them 18 months on.
Yes.
So we're using these as a
this is a guide only, but
as a real baseline.
Again, now I've had a few more sips, I'm starting to get a bit more of that. I know that I'm drinking a boozy beer again.
Yeah. I think the one thing for me that I've already noticed between our glasses, and I've not been talking that much, is
you've enjoyed this one more.
Mine is going rapidly.
Yeah, you're enjoying this one
so
more,
much smoother. Any more Beery highlights, Beery adventures for you during the summer before we go on to giving our next award?
Yeah, a couple spring to mind for me. My son turned 18 in mid-September. And I pulled together some close family, some close friends, and And you, yes. Will you not take my best lines? Right, edit that a bit. Let's do that again. So yeah, we went to the Vic. So I had a quick word with them. I knew what time they were opening, and again, it was a lovely late summer's day. Lovely weather. We sat out the back in like that faux pub surrounding that it's got the three sides, and the Vic looked after us. You know, they looked after my son, tried to find him a drink he might like. And we cracked open a bottle of the Fuller's Vintage 2000, which was the year that Michael was born. Unfortunately, I had to split it about 10 ways, which was really, really quite annoying. So never doing that again. But yes, it was great to share my son's 18th birthday, the Fuller's 2000, with family and friends in my favourite pub. It was like all the ticks for me. That fairly much did it. And then we had pizza from just over the road.
Brilliant.
So ticked a lot of boxes that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was definitely a highlight for me. And we followed up at work another work beer tasting. This time it was purely California beers, and that was done by Chris Hall on behalf of his day job from the bottle shop. And he came along, and again very well received. Obviously, he's got a different way of presenting than Matt Curtis. Different background in the beer industry. And chose some really nice beers. So again, him and Matt, I'm hoping I can have a conversation at the start of the year, see if I can get them in again in 2019. That was definitely a highlight. It's always quite nice for me when I'm hosting a beer tasting at work when someone else chooses the beers.
Yeah, you don't. It takes the worry away.
It takes the worry away, but also means I'm invariably going to have something new, and I haven't had to search for it. And it's like a few surprises will come my way, and also they've often got access as well, especially with the cold chain supply that Bowl Shop now have. So yeah, those were the, other than the things you've already mentioned, those were the two things that stood out for me, Steve.
Okay, so let's look at our award for this section, which is we're going to look at Brewery of the Year now. So let's have a look and see what Twitter said. First of all, we had quite a few shout outs on this one. So we had Mills Brewing, that was from Blakey at JRM Blakey. Track Brew Co. from Kieran Bale at Signori Size Fives. Nice easy Twitter handle there. At Brew York Beer, again from Kieran. Northern Monk from Bring on the Beer at Bring on the Beer. Little Earth Beer from Catsul at Katrinas, and Brew Yonder from Oakley Addict at Oakley Addict 1. We also had from Man Cave Beer Reviews at mancave_beer_, who said meeting the man behind the curtain at Watson's Brewery, Mark Watson, at the Minories Christmas market and picking up one or two under the counter specials. Well, you know what, Mr. Man Cave Beer Reviews? Come to an Essex bottle share and you get to meet Mark Watson on a regular basis.
Well, when Mark turns up.
Yeah, when Mark turns up.
I know you probably don't listen to this a lot of the time because you're busy brewing beer and trying to get your little tap room sorted out with two brews, which hopefully that application will eventually be successful. But yeah, effectively, Mark started out as a bit of a hobbyist. He'd retired, something to pass the time, and it's rapidly got out of control.
It has.
So he's nano brewery, I think is the phrase.
I think nano, yeah.
I think he still classes as a nano brewery. And I have to admit, all joking aside, when he does turn up at the bowl share and he does bring his beers, invariably they are good beers.
I've not had a bad one from him.
And for me, his speciality is definitely dark beers.
Yeah, but he loves dark beers himself.
Yeah, and that comes out, I think.
Yeah.
And I think there are some breweries where you know that they do the other beer styles because they need to have them, but there's a certain love for a certain style, and those are the ones generally they excel at.
But it's nice that we can speak about that one because
we know him and we taste his beers, and
Mark is local.
Basically he honed his recipes by bringing them to the bottle share.
He did, yeah. When we had no idea that we were his guinea pigs, and then all of a sudden he announced he was starting a brewery.
Yeah. Oh.
And then we were like, oh, okay, so
makes sense now.
Yeah. So the honourable mention in this one goes to Lost and Grounded. And so from Mark the Gasman at Mark the Gasman, you just have to mention Lost and Grounded for the Summer Brewhouse sessions ×4, winter blowout with all top class breweries joining at all the events, plus the Crimbo Crawl host. We were so lucky. Annie and Alex chose Bristol to base their brewery in, and that was seconded by Steve Russian at Steve Russian. So the Listener's Choice Award on this one goes to a brewery that I've only literally just turned a year old. As we record this podcast, so in the last week they've only just turned a year old, and that's Wander Beyond Brewing from Manchester. So Mr. WP at Mr_WP, I clicked brewery, and for me it was at Wander Beyond. They have been brilliant in whatever they've tried this year. That was also backed up by SE18 Craft Beer Lovers at SE18 CBL and Paul Brewery at The Real Bryman. So congratulations to Wander Beyond for winning the Listeners Award there.
Well, they have had a lot of positive response.
They have indeed.
It's their milkshake, I think, which has definitely garnered, the mini milkshake especially.
There are a lot of people calling them the British equivalent of Omnipollo in terms of some of the flavours they're getting into their beers at the moment.
Okay, and I'm going to take that, people are meaning that as a compliment.
Oh, no, without a doubt, it's a compliment, yeah.
Omnipollo had that, is their SP of getting those really interesting flavours into a variety of beers. Although Omnipollo probably don't do necessarily the lower ABV beers.
Neither, well... If you look at the majority of the beers, certainly that I've had from Wander Beyond, they've been in double digits, apart from the mini milkshake IPA.
Stop ordering those ones, Steve, and order something else.
That's all they do in cans. It's the big ABV.
But they've definitely had a lot of good press this year.
Yeah, and their artwork's fantastic.
Yeah, I think I've really only tried one or two of their beers, so I haven't really got enough of a point of reference. But I'm definitely hoping to see them a bit more regularly down south.
Oh, very, very much so. Yeah. So let's go into our brewery of the year. Go for it, mate. You get in first.
I haven't really got any honourable mentions here, but I am actually going to do a little bit of a twist on this. I'm going to give a rest of the world shout out first of all.
Oh, okay. So we're going international.
We are going international here. Now I have no choice but to do it for this one. Half Acre, because all of their beers that I tried this year, which I think I had 7 or 8 beers of theirs, we were lucky enough to get a hold of their cans when they came over, both from, I think, Two Brews and Licorice, helped us out on both occasions.
So there's been 2 batches of them this year that we've got,
And every single one of those beers I absolutely loved. The Pale Ale, the IPA, the Double IPA, the Imperial IPA, all of them were absolutely fantastic.
Classic West Coast IPAs.
All of them were West Coast styles. And Half Acre is Chicago, aren't they?
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough to try one of their beers when I was in the States, in New York. I saw it on the board. Michael still hadn't come back from the shop. And I thought, I can sneak this in. And again, that was absolutely delicious. That's definitely a place I would like to visit. If I get to go to Chicago, Half Acre will be a must visit for me. Just because it is that style of beer that I fell in love with. I absolutely adored them. So that's my rest of the world shout out.
Okay.
I know that may have been a bit of a surprise entry.
No, I'll give you that, and I'll almost second that for you as well, because I've enjoyed beers from Half Acre this year.
And I actually saw the tuna, the daisy cutter, the Vallejo and St Kelsey in the fridge at the pub beside where we went to play darts. I'm so glad we didn't go in there first. Otherwise darts could have gone horribly wrong.
Well, I think tonight would have gone horribly wrong as well if you'd been on those at lunchtime.
There is that as well. Right, so now you and the listeners and anyone who follows me on Twitter know that I'm definitely one of those people who loves not just beers from traditional, but beers from brewers who consistently brew beers that I want to drink and enjoy drinking. So rather than, for me, I think there have been some fantastic beers that come from some really good breweries, both new and old. But it's the ones where whatever beer they release, I will try. Whatever beer they're involved in a collaboration, I will try. And I really want to go for it. So my two, it's a bit of a joint winner, and there is probably actually an honourable mention. So the honourable mention is North Riding. Okay?
Whoa, didn't see that one coming.
Get in. Right.
Really didn't see that one coming.
Since Michelle became addicted to ordering from Sean at Beer Central, North Riding has become a bit of a staple of the order. Very traditional looking 500ml bottles. Seemingly from the outside looking in quite traditional beers, but generally all the beers are between the mid-3s and the mid-4s. Pack a punch, all of them so far. And a bit like the Cheshire Brewhouse who we referred to earlier saying, I would love to try them on cask. Every North Riding beer so far I've gone, I wish I could try it out on cask. All of them have delivered. And they are using, some modern US hops as well. They're dark beers. I think we've got a peanut butter stout in there, and that's still coming in the early fours, mid four range. Whether they do the bigger beers, I don't know.
I think they know their market. I think they know where they're targeting.
I'm entirely reliant on all the beers that Michelle has sent through, because the Beer Central thing I've left to her, and it's quite a nice surprise for me when a big box from Sean, the nuclear packaging turns up, and you get to see these new beers. And I've seen a few bits, and a few other people have mentioned North Riding, and a few people have posted a few pictures of the pump clips as well. So for me, they've been a real revelation, and every beer I've had has made me want to think, I want to carry on trying their range at the moment. That's my honourable mention. And I've done my rest of the world. I'm going to hand over to you before I announce my winners.
Okay.
I say winners.
I've got 2 shout-outs. This will probably come as no surprise to anyone. So a shout-out to Thornbridge and Lost and Grounded for brewing beers that I have enjoyed every time I've tried them, but for also inviting us to do things with them this year, because they've been 2 of the real highlights of the year for me, was doing the live show at Peakender and also starting off the Crimbo Crawl at Lost and Grounded as well. So those are my 2 shout outs. Maybe not necessarily purely for their beers, but the beer playing very much a part of what they do. My honourable mention goes to a brewery that we've already mentioned tonight, and that's Wander Beyond, because unlike yourself, I've got to try a lot of their beers this year. I've pretty much had every one of their canned releases, and I have been absolutely blown away by the taste, the flavour, the mouthfeel, the packaging. Everything for me has been fantastic, and right now I really don't think they can do any wrong. The only wrong they're doing right now is that they're not producing enough beer for me to drink, because I want to drink more of their beers.
Oh, and I think that's a good problem for them to face, but I think they'll probably have to expand their capacity pretty quickly.
Yeah,
because you want to keep up with demand.
If they keep producing beers of the quality that they're producing right now, then absolutely.
Yeah, I know you've been a big fan of them this year.
Yeah.
Wasn't there one of their beers on in the Marble Arch when we went there in Manchester? It was one of the milkshake beers. That may have been the time I did try a beer.
Yeah, I think that might have been the mini milkshake.
Yeah.
Actually, that was on because we'd literally just come from Beer Nouveau. That was the weekend of their first ever can release, and some of Steve's regulars had come in with some cans because they had been to Wander Beyond first.
Oh, they did, didn't they?
And we got a little taster of the Imperial milkshake,
which was very good of them to share them with
strangers. Yeah. So those are my shout-outs and honourable mentions. Back to you then for your winners.
Okay, and
of Brewery of the Year.
I can't split this, and it's purely as much as you said there about one of the breweries. Mine is purely on the fact that when I see these beers in whatever package, but especially on cask, my joint winners for Brewery of the Year is Adnams and Thornbridge.
I'm not surprised at all.
No, I don't think anyone's going to be surprised. I mean, if they'd had put down 2 breweries, I reckon a large percentage of people who know me would have said Adnams and Thornbridge.
Yeah.
Even at work today, someone brought in a bottle of Ghost Ship and said, this was bought for a friend at the weekend, he didn't drink it, and I thought, I'm sure you've mentioned Adnams before, and I went, surely not me. It's the cask beers are fantastic. Like I said, Jaipur's been mentioned plenty of times to me, but also the range of beers that they do, the fact that they're getting those beers out to places I go to, and the small packaging, especially now with Thornbridge with the cans into places like Tesco's. Yeah, they're I can't split between the 2 of them.
Fair enough. So joint winner for you. For me, this is maybe some people are going to be a little bit surprised by where I'm going with this one. But my winner of Brewery of the Year, again, based on a number of things, consistency being one of them, availability, the number of their beers that I've got to try, and if I could nail it down to a single moment, it would be on an afternoon in April when we walked into their pub and ordered a pint of one of their classic beers, and it tasted absolutely fantastic on cask in the pub that they're most known for. My Brewery of the Year is Marble from Manchester. They've just been knocking it out of the park for me this year, and as I say, that pint that we had in the Marble Arch was one of, if there was an award for moment of the year, that would probably win it.
Did you have the chips and gravy as well at the same time?
We had the chips. We had the chips and gravy with a second pint of Manchester Bitter.
But that was...
Which I've since found out, and I didn't know this. Apparently Manchester Bitter is their homage to Boddingtons, the original Boddingtons. I didn't know that.
Cool, I would never have been able to tell that. Probably because I've never had Boddingtons as it was originally intended, to be honest. Sorry, if anyone's heard a little bit of noise, it is because I've cracked open another tradition. Is cheese.
We've got a cheese board on the go now.
So I've opened a couple of packets for us to...
So for fans of us eating at the same time as drinking...
Special mention to Paul for this one.
Yeah. Enjoy the rest of the show. Because
he especially loves the chewing in his ear hole, doesn't he?
He does. So we're... What's that? We've just got one more award to get through, but we've still got two more beers.
So I'll pour this one. So this is the third one. This is the Madeira Barrel Aged, and we've stepped another little incremental up on the ABV, 10.9% this time, Steve.
Okay, so while you're pouring this, we'll go into looking at the last quarter of the year, which was the most recent, running from October to December. So in this period, there's only really one show that I want to mention, which was Hopinions 74, which was stout, let it all out. And I think people are going to know why we're mentioning this, not because that event won both of our Beery Adventure of the Year, but I think we were both absolutely blown away by the content that we got for that show, in terms of the historical content, the knowledge, and again the passion that we had around the table.
There was so many things unexpected. The tour around the brewery, the behind the scenes, the bits of the brewery which I never even thought might even exist. The chatting to Evelyn from the archive, Patrick who runs the Open Gate Brewery, the passion, the knowledge, their friendliness, their openness as well. I personally had an absolute ball, and that was before we talk about some of the beers we enjoyed with them as well.
Oh God, it was just brilliant.
Yeah, I mean the one we were itching, dying to have was the one they did with Delirium.
Timmermans,
sorry, Delirium, because the guy turned up.
Yeah, I was just about to say you got carried away because we had this sudden tasting with the owner of Delirium.
Which was very unexpected. So that, I mean, and that was such that beer. I've tried it twice since. So we had it on the 1st of November. 2nd of November, we recorded on the Friday the 2nd, because the Stout Day was on the 1st of November. And you had sort of chocolate coffee with hints of cherry and those fruity notes coming through. A month later we tried it, we shared it with Clayton as part of the pre-Crimbo crawl.
On the way to the Crimbo,
Even a month later, that cherry lambic was starting to win that particular battle. I had it on Saturday when my friend Carl came over, shared it with Michelle again. Cherry's winning big time. Those chocolate notes, they ain't coming back. Still a lovely beer, but just in 2 months. Because it's 6%, so perhaps not as big as people may have thought it could be. And maybe that plays a bit more towards the lambic rather than the stout notes. Still a lovely beer, but just in 2 months it tastes different. And that we were definitely itching to try that. And then lo and behold, there was all these other stouts. Yeah. All around about 10%. And again, we got to meet some new people. Jens from Holland, his brewery there. Snobs again, met up with the Snobs.
Yeah.
And we just had a ball and drank way too many dark beers, way too many beers over 10%.
But massive shout out to the Friday night where we just went, we need hops. So we found the nearest Galway Bay bar and just absolutely satisfied our need for hops.
Yeah, let's have whatever West Coast pales you got, deliver them to our table.
We drank them all.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah. So that leads quite nicely into the Beery adventures for this quarter. So that whole weekend, without a doubt, was one of them.
Yep.
For me, there was Indie Man as well, which I've already spoken about. It was great to go back to Indie Man. I also got to go to Hawksmoor as well and try the collaboration beers that Guinness had done with Harbour, to be paired with a menu of different dishes. that was absolutely fantastic. We were lucky enough to be invited to the Goose Island Shoreditch bar opening, where they were doing kind of exclusive early tastes of this year's Bourbon County Stout as well, which I have to say was tasted amazing.
It was tasting amazing, and we tried it side by side with the 2017 iteration as well. And then Josh very kindly shared a 2012 coffee version, as well, and that was bloody amazing. That was. But I also went a bit fanboy there, didn't I?
You did, because Derek Prentice.
Derek Prentice of previously many years at Truman's and now Wimbledon Brewery, and I went hello, shook his hand. He's going, no idea who you are.
But also, massive shout out for the mac and cheese that was available from the bar on that evening, because that tasted fantastic.
And sorry, just for they brought out 3 pizzas and put them on our table, and they took 2 of them away. The one they left us was the perfect one for Steve: cheese and meatballs.
It was everything you want on a pizza.
It was that was a good night. I said it is a good bar though.
Yeah.
And if I know this is a little bit, sorry to people who aren't as familiar with London, but I do work in the city every day. This bar is 5 minutes walk from Liverpool Street Station. Within that 5 minutes walk, you've also now got access to McKellar Bar. You've still got Brewdog. You've got King's Arms. And then further up the road, you've got the original Mother Kelly's.
So it's becoming a bit of a destination.
Definitely becoming a bit of a destination. And, for me, having that quite close by, I could not have pictured that a few years back happening. That Goose Island would be effectively available on the doorstep, plus things like their Sour Sisters series on tap.
Yeah. Which we got to try some of those, and even with my aversion to sours, I was quite happy to.
Some of them were still quite flavoursome, and the sourness was probably made it a little bit more accessible for you. That it was a little bit dialed down. Lovely bar, lovely feel to it. They do have live music there, but the way the bar is structured, you could be quite far away from it if you want to be.
Yeah.
At the back. So that was definitely a highlight.
Yeah. This was also the quarter where cask came back.
Yep.
Cloudwater released 4 cask beers, which we got to try a couple of at the Vic Inn.
Yep. Enjoyed them.
Thoroughly loved them.
I would have, we didn't get to try. Was it either the pale beers?
The 2 pales.
Yeah, neither the pales.
DDH pale and the pale, but I think the 2 that we tried were probably the 2 that I would have wanted to have tried anyway, which was the brown ale and the India Porter.
Yeah, I thought the brown ale was excellent.
I loved the India Porter.
So, and I think I also said the same when I think Cloudwater were involved as part of the Wylam Powerhouse series, and the brown ale was the one they did. And it just goes to show you can make brown ale without it having to be, flat, boring, bland, and a bit twiggy.
Yeah.
You can still make it flavoursome.
They were smashing it with those beers. And then also we had the Crimbo Cool, which we don't really need to go into any detail on, because if people want to listen to that, they can listen to it.
There's a whole show of it.
Yeah.
But great fun as ever. Really nice that a few people have shouted it out as part of their Beery highlights for the year. Next year's Manchester, I think that's going to be the biggest yet.
I think it will as well, but let's leave that for now.
Yeah,
because that's a year away.
It is a year away now. I say, although Steve's saying it's a year away, come January he will already be thinking about it.
I've already planned the route. It's fine. It's fine. So we're drinking the next Prize Old Ale here before we go into what some of your highlights might have been in this period, and we've both been supping away at it, which is why I've jumped in, because we should probably do a little bit.
No, good idea.
Tasting. So this one's been aged in Madeira barrels.
Now I know what Madeira is, but I don't really drink it.
Is it sherry?
Isn't it an iteration of sherry? It's that sort of ilk, isn't it? Port, sherry, Madeira. I think I've had it once or twice with some tastings at work. It feels like the softest one so far in terms of the roundness of the flavour.
Well, it's the highest in ABV, again, 10.9 we've crept up to here.
It has got a bit more harshness on the nose, I think.
A little bit more of the woody coming back there, maybe. slight Bretty hints as well. I'd say the Flanders red creeping back in there.
Only slightly, but I think it's one of those things I think you might even pick up quicker than I will, because you're always going to be a little bit unsure if it's going to be something you like.
On the palate, there is a little bit of harshness around the edges. Feels a bit livelier on the tongue than the others.
Now, you see, I'm glad you said that, because out of the 3 I've poured so far, this was definitely the liveliest bottle.
Yeah.
This was definitely had the most life, and I think it's retained a bit more of its head retention as well.
Yeah, it feels like it's tickling the tongue.
Yeah, and I quite like that, actually.
Yeah.
That's quite nice. I mean, we're also having a bit of cheddar and brie with this one, aren't we, as well?
Yeah, which is working quite well.
Which is probably why we were just supping and eating while we were talking, without really thinking about it.
So what were your other beery adventures during this period, if we haven't already covered them?
Well, we've obviously covered Guinness, we've covered Bourbon County, we've covered Crimbo Crawl. Obviously, something I shared with my son was a trip to Boston and New York.
Which we never ever really got to talk about on a show.
No.
Purely because of the recording schedule.
Yeah, the recording schedule, because I came back and then 3 days later we ended up drinking silly o'clock stouts.
Yeah. So here's 3 hours of Martin talking about America.
Yeah. Enjoy it while Steve eats all the cheese, which he's quite happy about. To be honest, not too many beer adventures in New York, so I'll sort of put that one out there now. Although what I will say is, having got the Amtrak train to New York, they do have quite a nice little selection of beers on the train. I had the Dogfish Head Imperial IPA, which you wouldn't expect necessarily to be sold on the train.
I'd love to see that sold on a train over here.
I know, it's brilliant. I think I had the Sam Adams Oktoberfest. I think there was a Stone IPA, and I went, I can get that in M&S.
Imagine getting the train to Manchester and seeing an in.
It's probably a good idea you can't, Steve.
Yeah, probably. Let's be honest.
But that was quite nice, and I only had a couple of beers. I had one beer from Other Half, and I had the beer from Half Acre, what I referred to earlier as well. It was a Pilsner I had from Half Acre. That's what it is. And
I bet they nailed that as well, didn't they? Yeah.
Did they ever? Because it was a lovely sunny day in New York as well, and I was in the sunshine near the window. Perfect. And then Michael came back from the shop. Go away, go back to the shop. Go spend more money. So that was really the New York beery bit. But while I was in Boston, it would have been remiss of me not to have tried to visit Trillium. Now, Trillium generally, up until recently, only had their place outside of Boston. Bit of a trek, to be honest, and I couldn't really work out a way to do that effectively and drink and take Michael with me. Fortunately, they opened a bar in downtown near the harbour. The opening weekend was the weekend me and Michael arrived.
Timing.
Brilliant timing, and rammed.
Well, so, as you can imagine, it would be. Yeah.
So the Sunday, this was about 6 o'clock in the evening. I thought, we'll just pop in. We're going by. We'd done our walk around the city, get used to it, get the idea of the lay of the land kind of thing. I thought we'll just pop in. There was no hope of getting a seat, and it's not really somewhere that lends itself to just standing. So I thought, okay, I'll get 4 to take away. I'll have them as backups in the room. Also, they had the American football on as well, so the place was rammed. And obviously, while I was there during October half term, the World Series was on, which Boston did win in the end. So I had very little chance. Went in there again, I think on the following Tuesday, or no, actually it might have been the Thursday. And I thought, no, this ain't working. Still busy. So I said to Michael, right, I'm going to go there. It opens at 11, so I got there at 5 to 11 on the Friday. By 12 o'clock on a Friday, wasn't there school holidays, it was full. Wow. By 12 midday. They had a vast range of taps, but what they also had was this bit for retail, cold store out the back. So basically just a massive giant fridge that they could walk into, and people were buying Trillium, a minimum by the 4. A lot of people were buying packs of 24, out of the 24. You could mix it up and all that kind of stuff. The prices were very reasonable as well. And I brought back for us, I think I brought back some double IPA, and I brought back some dark beers as well.
Really, there's definitely an Imperial Stout that we got to try.
Yeah, really enjoyed visiting there. It is a lovely bar. I got to talk while I was there for a little bit before I got too busy. Got to talk to them, and everyone seemed to enjoy working there. Now, obviously, since then I know that some stuff has come out about them, which they seem to be trying to rectify. But if you are in Boston and you've got any interest in beer, I would recommend going there. Also, it meant I got to try what I think is one of the breweries I would trust to represent the New England IPA style as it should be. And I have to admit, I had a bit better appreciation for it, because what I found with the one or two that I tried was that really sweet, cloying, flat aftertaste wasn't there.
Oh, really?
So it was still juicy, and it was still low on bitterness, but it didn't have all those aspects which I think just cloud my judgment of it and make me go, oh, don't even know if I can get through a small glass of it. Didn't have that feeling at all. So that was really good. Also paid a visit to Harpoon, and this is where I'd like to say thanks to Fergus and Ed at Adnams, because Adnams done a few collaborations with them. They put me in touch with them. Me and Michael had a little brewery tour, which was good fun. Tried a few of their beers. They're right on the harbour. It's well worth a visit, and they're only a 10-minute walk or so from Trillium as well. So if you can get your timings right, you can easily do both if you can hit the right time. They only serve like schnitzels. These are like great, big, warm, bready versions and come with just a variety of dips. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And also paid a visit to Sam Adams. You know, Boston Lager. I've never had Boston Lager from Boston. I've only had Boston Lager brewed under licence from over here. And it was beautiful. It was really tasty.
Obviously better than over here. I'm not going to ask that question.
No, way better. And I know you always have a slightly different opinion because you're in the brewery as well. But the tours are free. It's quite a short tour. So if you've got maybe, and they're fine on the ages as well, as far as I could work out, but worth checking. But if people don't want to get too technical with the brewing process, it's quite a light headline grabbing version, bit of a tasting, nice shop, lovely little tap room as well, where you can buy to drink on site or take away. So those were the breweries. The only other bar I would like to shout out was a bar that we found when we did the Freedom Trail, which is a walking tour for free. It takes quite a chunk of the day. Get to see some lovely spots in Boston though. And we were coming to like the last leg of it. I think we only had Bunker Hill to go to, which is basically the last stop. And I saw a sign which said cask, which was a bit surprising because I was in the States, and it sort of leapt out. I said cask to my son. My son looked at me knowing what was going to happen next.
With that longing look in his eyes.
He knew that we were going to go in. We had been walking for 2 hours, so he was quite comfortable with that, having a bit of a sit down. They did have 3 cask beers on. All of them were nice. Highlight was one called Mayflower. Very, very nice take on an IPA. Almost like the Americans doing a British cask version of IPA. And then I found out they had High Lie on tap.
Oh dear. Say goodbye to the rest of the day.
So I forced myself to have one because we were determined to finish the Freedom Trail. But then they also said, oh, by the way, tonight, Monday Night Football, obviously, you know, American football, Monday night, that's where it all comes from. We do a meal deal. 12 wings for $3. 12 chicken wings for $3. Michael just said, well, we'll come back here afterwards then. I didn't even have to say that.
Yeah.
Came back, had the chicken wings, had some more High Lie. Happy days. Brilliant. And
everyone wins.
Little place called Blackmore Bar and Kitchen. It's on the Freedom Trail near the Bunker Hill. So if you are ever near that or you're doing Boston, it's well worth a visit. That's it for America. One other beery highlight for me. I went to the 4 Pure 5th birthday party. So me and Michelle bought a couple of tickets, went down there, had a nice tasting because you could buy a tasting ticket. Went through 5 or 6 beers. Just had a really nice time. Did a couple of other bars on the Bermondsey Beer Mile. Terry, aka the Brigadier, he was there that day as well. With a friend of his whose name always escapes me but goes under the moniker The Master. So unsurprisingly, there may have been a bit of Doctor Who chat at some point. So sorry to anyone else who was in the earshot of that conversation. So that was good fun, and obviously Terry joined us on the Crimbo call in Bristol as well. So that was it for me. I mean, the last quarter of the year was a lot happened.
It was a big quarter, and I think the one thing that we both missed out was there was a matter of a small award in that quarter as well that we picked up. Yeah, now I was in 2 minds whether to mention it, but it's a highlight for us.
It was a highlight, you know. Obviously, I went to the British Guild of Beer Writers dinner. I had submitted the podcast and a variety of episodes, which I've already referred to a couple of them as well. And I was hoping it was a lovely evening actually. Got to meet a few people, and there was a few people who, very graciously said that they listened to the podcast. There was the guy who got the Young Beer Writers Award, and I was just listening to you, and I said that must be really weird then. He was listening to us on the way over.
Yeah.
And obviously you couldn't make it. I think you were at a performance of one of the boys that night.
Yeah, I was.
And it was lovely. Ed from Adnams was down there, so guess what I ended up drinking quite a bit of. And yeah, the only thing I would say is I wish they'd done the awards before dinner. The awards were done after dinner.
It did seem to stretch out.
It was quite late. And then you didn't really get as much chance to sort of celebrate and talk to other people, because by then it was 10:30.
Yeah,
and, it's a hotel that had got licensed for a certain amount of time. The breweries and the bars you'd set up obviously had to get away as well, to be fair to them. But we won, and it was a lovely moment. The award was presented by Pete Brown. Adrian Tierney-Jones did the announcement. Congratulations obviously to everyone else who won, and thank you to everyone who, both on the evening when I was there, congratulated us and said, well deserved, long overdue. All those really nice things was really lovely to hear. The feedback and the comments people made on Twitter as well.
Yeah.
And also, because you couldn't make it, Steve, I presented you with the tankard at the Crimbo Crawl at Lost and Grounded, where we had such a fantastic start to our Crimbo Crawl day. And that for me, I think, was a lovely moment, especially for you, to get the chance to say thanks to the people who, I know for you especially, over the 6 years you've been doing it, that's where you get your buzz, your engagement. That's your reward, is that what you get back from the people who listen to the show and follow the Beer O'Clock Show on Twitter. And so I think for you, that was almost like the perfect moment for you in front of them to get it. I may be wrong.
Yeah, no, without a doubt, it was. You put me on the spot a little bit, and I wasn't expecting.
Oh yeah, I didn't tell you. Sorry, it was a surprise.
Yeah, and it was fantastic, but and you did make me say a few words as well, and I can't remember exactly what I said, but I do just want to try and echo a little bit of that, because we've joked about it on the last couple of shows, but we haven't actually thanked our listeners yet. So it's essentially trying to recreate what I said at Lost and Grounded. Was we enjoy doing this. We have a lot of fun producing this podcast, and it does always amaze me that we get as many people listen to us, and the engagement that we get for essentially two blokes talking about something that they're passionate about.
Yeah, I don't think we would be able to do it if we weren't passionate about it.
No, and the award, as much as it means to us to have won the award, for me, that's recognition of everything we've done over the last 6 years. The award isn't just for us, but it's for every single person that's listening to this podcast right now, because if you guys didn't get engaged with what we do, we'd have no show. We really wouldn't. It would be us talking about beer and sharing our views on various news things, but so many people get involved in what we do, and that's what makes us still quite unique in the Beery podcast world right now, is that we have massive listener engagement. And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you to every single person that listens. Thank you to every single person that gets involved in the polls. The award isn't just ours; it's yours as well. It's an award collectively for the Hopinions family.
Yeah, and definitely an honourable mention to my co-host predecessor Mark as well, without whom we wouldn't be doing this today anyway.
Well, no, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Mark. Mark made all of this possible.
Yeah, so Mark was doing all the technical stuff. Yeah. Mark was originally doing the editing. In fact, it was probably Mark's idea.
It was Mark's idea. It was absolutely Mark's idea. So yeah, thanks to Mark. Hope he still listens. I'm not sure he does anymore. But if he is listening, this one's for you, bud. Thank you very much. And on that note, just want to wrap the kind of review of 2018 up with a few little stats as well that I've collected from this year. So we've put out 29 shows this year, which isn't bad for a fortnightly podcast. Yeah, work that one out.
Yeah, I'm still doing the maths in my head.
Yeah, I think there may have still been. We might have still been doing a few pod blasts at the beginning of the year.
Okay.
And I did the extra bonus 12 beers of Christmas podcast that no one was expecting. We've got around, from those 29 shows, around 25,000 downloads of our podcast, which is a lot of people listening to us talk about stuff, mate.
That does amaze me.
Yeah, me too. I didn't tell you I was going to do these.
No.
As we said earlier, most downloaded show we've got now is the Hopinions 65, which is the Refreshes the Part show. We did our first live show this year as well at Peakender, which we think came off quite well. People seem to enjoy.
Yeah, I did really enjoy it.
And obviously this year for me, and well for us, culminated in us winning the award and being recognised for our work.
Yeah, and what I really hope is that going forward, because it was a category Beer Citizen. So yeah, quite like the title Beer Citizen 2018, don't get me wrong.
Still not sure what it means.
No, but I would love it,
I'll take it
if we could start to at least get a modern communication award going. I mean, when I say we, I mean available, saying about people who do anything other than the written word. Whether that be things like Rob does with Hopzine on YouTube, he's been doing it a long while now.
Yeah.
And we've definitely taken a few tips from him with the way we put the bottle up to the screen and stuff.
Our Periscope stuff that we do now is very much everything we do on that is very much modelled on how Rob does his YouTube content.
So I would love it if we can start. If they could find a way to find there's a modern, not online communication, 21st century community, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily just have to be podcast, but yeah, just so they recognise there's more than one way of communicating everything that's good about beer.
Yeah, totally agree with what you're saying there. So that brings us up to the final award of ours of the evening, which is the big one.
The big one.
It's beer of the year time.
Honourable mentions first of all.
Okay.
Already name checked one of these. This is the Vallejo from Half Acre.
Yeah.
Which I absolutely adored. Now, remind me though, was this the double IPA, the Vallejo?
I think so.
I absolutely adored it. I thought it was just completely on point, super drinkable, bearing in mind it was fairly decent ABV as well. Right up there for me. And then the next one is the collaboration between Thornbridge and Cigar City.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Interesting.
How do you say it properly? Is it Hi-I or Jai-Hi?
So I'm sure we've had this discussion before. Now, if you look at the way that the font is written, the first half is written in Cigar City font, which would suggest to me that's Hi. The second half is written in Thornbridge font, which is Jai.
So Hi-Jai.
So it's Hi-Jai.
Okay. I thought it was lovely, and I had my last bottle of my stash last night, which only reinforced that it was very, very worthy of an honourable mention.
Okay.
It was one of those collaborations where I felt like everyone had brought their A game to the party, rather than some of the collaborations where you feel like,
collaboration for the sake of collaborating.
This worked, this one for me. Right, so those were two fairly much West Coast centric kind of beers, weren't they?
Yeah.
My winner was a dark beer.
Okay. For a second there, I thought you was going to say my winner is a New England style, and that was going to be it. This was going to be the last Opinions show ever.
The show was going to stop.
Yeah, right there. Okay, so your winner's a dark beer.
So dark beer, 14.5%.
Okay.
Beavertown Tempest Project Heavy Lord is my beer of the year. I've based that on two things. One, purely based on my memory of how I remember having it. Me and Michelle made our first trip to the Beavertown tap room over in Tottenham. Gloriously sunny day, very busy. I won't go on about the tap room, but we sat outside and we thought, just in case it all runs out, we'll have that straight away at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Sensible move, though.
Of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely divine beer. Really, really enjoyed it at the time. I went back to my Untapped, and it was my highest check-in of the year. I think it was the only one which got if I take away the fact that I also score some 5s these days on just sessionability, and then generally tends to be my accessible cask beers, they said a 4.75, which at the time was fairly much as one-off beer for me. But it turned up at the last bottle share as well.
It did indeed, yes. Which I was thrilled that we got to try at a bottle share.
And it only reinforced my opinion. So I've now had it tap and in bottle, and I thought it was a absolutely fabulous example of what they can actually do, given the chance to time, space, and a bit of time to breathe as well, and do that. And I think I may still have a bottle in the cellar in David's beer cupboard. To my right, a couple of feet away from where we're recording. I'm leaving that for a little while as well. But yeah, beer of the year, Beavertown Tempest Project, Heavy Lord.
I took a slightly different approach to this year's beer of the year. So I downloaded my Untapped stats
into a spreadsheet,
as you do. I discovered that I had 1,349 check-ins this year of beers. So I started filtering at that point. So I was like, right, give me my top scores. A lot of 5-star beers in there. So I took out all the beers that I've had before. Okay. So anything that wasn't new in 2018. So I took out all the Cannonballs, took out all the Halcyons, and that left me with one beer. No, it left me with
zero.
Yeah, it left me with nothing. It left me with 14 beers after that. So I then had to have a look through those 14 beers and kind of almost work out whether were they 5s, or I think this was something that came up on the last Rhythm and Brews podcast as well. Do you get carried away in a moment where you've had a few beers and you think this beer is the best beer ever?
There's a really good discussion that bit.
And you score it a 5 and then you go back and try it and it's actually a 2.
Yeah, really good discussion that bit.
Yeah, I loved that, and I wanted to be involved in that discussion.
I think in my head I was involving myself in that discussion at the time.
So I managed to whittle it down to 5 beers that I think were up for my contender for beer of the year.
And is this in any particular order?
Well, I'm going to give 4 of them, and then I'm going to give my winner.
Okay.
So first one I'm going to give was probably my most recent beer on this list, which was Magic Rock's Tiramisu Strongman. So it was the coffee cake version of their classic barley wine, and it was just divine. And we had that. I had that at Indie Man. And then we had it again, Three Wise Monkeys in Colchester.
That was a bit of a bonus, that day.
And it was just tasting incredible. That was off the charts incredible. There's also a shout in here for Half Acre. But the other one, the Navaja. Nahava, an Imperial IPA. Just spot on in terms of West Coast styling.
There wasn't much to choose between the one I chose and the one you've chosen.
Yeah. Then the next one is from a brewery that's been mentioned a few times this evening, Wander Beyond Brewing, which was their Bloom, which was their Imperial Black Milkshake IPA, which was 10-11% in a can, and it was strawberry, it was chocolate, it was vanilla, it was thick, it was incredible. It was just, for a long time, that was beer of the year. That was there.
Oh, okay.
But something dethroned it. And it's not the next beer, it's the beer after the next beer. And the next one, and this is where I think potentially I'm going to break Untapped at some point in the future, because I've already rated this year's Fuller's Vintage as a 5 after tasting it fresh. Now,
where did you taste it?
In bottle at home.
Oh, so straight from
the bottle. About 2 days after it was delivered.
You enjoyed it that much?
That much that it was a 5 straight away.
Well, I mean, that's a pretty big shout for that.
It was
kind
just.
of beer.
I've got my check-in notes here. Dark fruits, citrus hints, sweet but crisp finish. Gonna break Untapped with the next check-in of this one. So I rated that as a 5 straight away.
Wow.
So those are all the nearly rans. So those are the ones that were almost there. Bloom was there for so long.
That's some big names as nearly rans, man.
That they are.
So,
but my winner and my beer of the year, and I can hardly contain myself here because it's the Beavertown Heavy Lord. I've chosen We've chosen the same beer as our beer of the year.
No discussion.
No, I tried it in the summer from the bottle. I didn't get to try it on tap like you did. I had it from the bottle, and at the time I was like, my God, that is incredible. That is an absolute masterclass of brewing and barrel aging and just bringing together a beer. And then, much like yourself, it turned up a bottle share, and I had a little taste, and I was like, let's just reaffirm the fact that that's the beer of the year.
That's exactly what it did for me.
For me, and I've got, like yourself, I've got another bottle which you got for me from the tap room that day. I'm going to have that bottle on Christmas Day because I'm going to celebrate the fact that I think that beer is as good as it's ever going to be right now. It may get better in the future, but I want to taste it again right now because it's a brilliant beer. So, once again, for the third time this evening...
I'm surprised. I'm really...
Why are you so surprised?
Well, because I knew that you'd rated some of those other beers you already quoted. I knew that you highly rated them, and especially the one, I think you've mentioned the one to be on one before as well. I just, out of all the beers we've had between us...
Well, bearing in mind I've had nearly 1,400 beers this year. You've probably had a few more because of your travels.
Yeah, I've been away a few more times.
So between us, we've probably had...
Probably around about 3,000 beers.
Yeah, well, maybe more than that between us, that we've come to a consensus on the same beer being our beer of the year.
I am surprised at that.
It's quite amazing. So, a massive congratulations to Beavertown and to Three Floyds.
I think that's who they did it with.
Yeah. For Heavy Lord, the Tempest Project Barrel Age version, being the Hopinions beer of the year.
Yes, and we are celebrating the Beavertown win with
the final
iteration of Prize Old Ale. This is the 11.6% version, Pinot Noir Barrel Aged. So we've gone over the 11%.
I'm properly looking. This is the one that I've most been looking forward to.
It was for me as well, because we both like a drop of red wine.
Yeah.
But if I do go for red wine, it tends to be New World for me. And one of my favourite ones is, especially like a New Zealand Pinot Noir. Love a New Zealand Pinot Noir. This is a completely different nose to the other ones.
It is. It's a completely different flavour as well. There's a lot more oak in that for me. I don't know about you, but you're getting the tannins straight away.
Yeah, are you getting those like red currant kind of flavours coming through as well? That feels still boozy. Sorry, just getting that going down now.
Very boozy.
Ooh, that's an amazing series of beers.
It's incredible, isn't it?
They've all started in fairly much the same place.
One beer, essentially. I'm assuming what they've done is they've brewed a batch and then they've split it down 4 ways. There is a blog which we'll link through to in the show notes that was written by you've got the notes there.
Yep, there you go.
Sorry.
Passing them over. So I'm just going to
so there is
have some more beer.
There is a blog that was written at the time by Marble's head brewer JK that explains the process that they went through, and they actually blended some of these as well to get the right percentages in the right barrels to produce these flavours. And so have a read through that, because it's technical in every level of detail, more than that we could cover. So that will be linked through.
It will read better than us saying it
at this stage. We've still got opinions to go, mate, so we still need to get into the question that we actually asked our listeners.
Opinions, 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 opinions.
So we did ask that we're looking back at 2018 and looking for your beery highlights. We offered brewery, event, beer or other. We've already covered 3 of those off: brewery, event and beer. 22% went for brewery, 42% event, 18% beer and 18% other. 304 votes, a low number of votes, but this sort of poll always gets a lower number of votes, but lots of comments.
I was going to say that to you. There was a lot of comments.
More comments than we've probably had on a poll. Even on our record-breaking poll of a couple of weeks ago that was 1,200 votes, didn't even go near the number of comments. We had
Yeah.
130 comments on this, and we do just want to go through some of these comments because these are all in the other category. So a lot of people were saying it's more than just about what you've listed here. So
Well, we've already mentioned some from the brewery, the events, the beers, anyway, as we've gone through. So the other's the one which we really haven't shouted out yet.
No, so let's get through some of these. So your boy Rob Edwards at Rob Edwards 90. For me, it's got to be all about the people I've met this year through beer. I've thrown myself out of my comfort zone and got to hang out with great people all over the country and in Colorado. In a similar vein, Points of Brew at points_of_brew. I must say it's been Twitter and the people that I've met through it and spoken with. Just speaking with so many people about a shared interest in a positive space has been ace. I hope to meet more in 2019 and go to more events as a result, meeting more people along the way. Again, Gregor J at Gregor_J_. My beery highlight was actually getting out and about and meeting other beery people, usually that I only speak to online. Also been to some ridiculous bottle shares too. So it's great that straight away people are saying it's about the community on Twitter.
And isn't it nice, because there has been on occasions in 2018 some toxic moments on Twitter that the first 3 comments, and these were quite early comments as well on the poll, were the positive aspects of the social media, but basically led to them being outside, meeting people, out of their comfort zone. These are all positives.
Absolutely.
This is the positive side of social media. When people are so quick to put social media down, these first 3 comments tell you there is some good sides to this.
Yeah. We've then got from Clay Blazic.
No idea how you say
at
that.
Kate_Blazic, and also from Sophie at So Beer Blogger. Both had a very similar comment that was sitting in Stone Berlin Beer Garden in blistering sunshine with some of my best friends. What a place. I'm going to guess that maybe they were together, but it might have been that they were there at separate times.
It's possible, because we've both been there at separate times, and if you do get there on a good day, it is a bit of a sun trap around there.
I went in October and sat in the sun in the garden. Yeah. The Owl Lady at the Owl Lady. I've got 2 because I'm greedy. A, meeting the monks behind Tint Meadow. Again, thank you so much for getting that interview for us. That really made that show. And B, finally having real life beers with Sparky Wright, Mr. Ian B, the Great Cubby-O and Mark the Gasman, and discovering that they are rather whiz outside the twab. It's all been about the people this year. So, you know,
Lovely.
Again, continuing that theme. Martin Griffin at Martin the Monkey.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's go with that.
The set of us hashtag Sussex bottle share. Thanks to Look at Brew. Got to try some lovely beers, but more importantly, met some really lovely people. And there were 2 or 3 other comments that said the same thing about the Sussex bottle share as well. So and that whole bottle share thing. That's the second time it's come off through these comments. We also had a comment from our creative director at Clayfish, who said about Essex Bottle Share and what a great place it continues to be and continues to thrive as an event.
In February, we'll be coming up for our 4th birthday.
4th birthday in February, and in January, the second beer we try in January will be our 500th unique beer.
It's not bad going for just a group of us that thought we'd meet up the first Tuesday of the month and share some beers.
Get together for a bit of fun.
So from our statistician, quite chuffed I could say that still.
You did well. And the January transfer window is coming up, so he's soon to become exclusively ours as well.
Exactly. So Sean O'Reilly at Uncrillier. My other was an evening around a campfire drinking a variety of different beer styles with a couple of mates who thought that beer choice amounted to lager or bitter. Sounds all right.
Just about wraps it up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
When you have one of those moments where you're just drinking with friends.
From Ronnie Bean, at Ronnie Bean, stalwart of the Crimbo Crawl.
The Crimbo Crawl wouldn't be the Crimbo Crawl without Ron.
No.
It's as simple as that.
Living in a beer desert, the local supermarkets upping their game and expanding the range of beers on offer regularly. That's a good point, actually. Especially if you are in a beer desert.
We've done a whole review of the year without even touching on how good supermarkets have got this year.
I know. I mean, we didn't do a particular section for supermarkets, but a few of them have upped their game again this year, and we've spoken about them last year.
And we've spoken about this, how they seem to keep pushing each other.
More than happy with that. Keep on going. From Simon Clark at Simon Carbon of Beers Without Frontiers. My first indie man and hashtag Crimbo Crawl 2018, because sometimes it's about more than what's in the glass.
I love that comment. I think it's so true.
And that does sum up things like Indie Man, because you can go then, you can have your tick list and stuff, and invariably you may not see all the beers you were going to go for anyway in that one session you're there. But if you're willing to just chat away, enjoy yourself, that 5-hour session, the Saturday afternoon, it goes. The first couple of hours, it's nice and steady, and then suddenly they're asking you to go.
Yeah, it does get to a point where all of a sudden time has gone without you even realising.
And that's sort of what happened at Crimbo Crawl. Those first few places, lovely little pace, and then I think because it's winter, suddenly it goes dark, and then it just flew by the rest of the day. And again, thank you for shouting out the Crimbo Crawl, but also just lovely to hear these comments about people saying about meeting people.
So we've got Richard Swindell's at Rich Swin. For me, hearing my brother at Shane Swindell's of Cheshire Brew had won champion beer with Govinda Chevalier edition at the RMI Analytics Herring World Final. Superb family moment, well deserved for that beer. It's a proper bit of kit. And also, your well-deserved award made me smile too. Made us smile.
Thank you, Richard. But also the Govinda Chevalier edition, that's the one that
we loved Govinda.
I had to top that up, and I would happen to say that Matt Curtis chose that as one of his IPAs when he did the history of IPA at work, and that went that evening. Usually we have a few leftovers. That wasn't one of the ones left over.
Just a brilliant beer. If you ever get a chance to get your hands on some Govinda,
have it.
And then final comment from Miles Lambert at Miles Lambert. Have to say, in the other category, it was amazing to see Brit beer writers finally recognising the contribution your little podcast has made to the Beery community. You get the best beers, breweries events every year, but that was a real mode changer for me.
Well, thanks again, Miles.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you ever so much for all the comments. As Steve said, we had over 100 comments on this time. So even though the voting was nowhere near the most popular voting, which I think with this sort of poll it's going to be really hard to vote, because for a lot of people it would probably just slip into other anyway.
Yeah. Keep the discussion going. Carry on using the hashtag opinions. We will find you, and hopefully you will appear in this next section of the show.
Let us know. Write it down. Let us know. Write it down. Let us know your thoughts and bitter and lingerness. Write it down.
We're aware that you've been with us for a long time. Just hang on for a few more minutes. We're almost there, folks. So we've got some feedback on the last couple of shows that we did.
Yep.
First of all, feedback on episode 74, Stout, Let It All Out. So Mark Johnson at Mark N. Johnson said, loving this episode. I've such a soft spot for Guinness through my family and loved all this. Can Foxatronic 82 have his own fortnightly spot? Just to hear him talk more often. Hashtag sultry tones. I'm sure we can make that happen.
We'd love to make that happen. And he was a very, very engaging talker.
Yeah, could have listened to him all day long. Justin Mason at 1970s Boy said, great podcast from the guys here, setting up the context and reason for being there and hearing the guests speaking passionately about the beer they brew and love was a real joy, well worth a listen. So thank you, Justin, for that. And then finally, Dr. Goggles at Burnt Angel. Just listen to your Stout episode. Very good as usual, but the interview with Evelyn Colgan was fascinating. I could listen to a whole podcast of her historical facts. Keep up the good work. And I think, once again, so could we.
Well, and let's be honest, for the first half of the interview, that's all I did do.
Yeah. I mean, Evelyn could have her own series. Let's be honest, of historical facts about Guinness.
Thank you so much. I'm really glad that people did appreciate the Guinness episode, because yes, they did look after us, yes, they did invite us, but that Friday when we were spending time with them, it felt like it was a good show, and it was just so good to have people. We were able to convey that. That was really good.
Yeah.
So we also had some feedback on probably the most recent episode then.
It was the last show, yeah.
The now also traditional post Crimbo Crawl podcast, where we may be slightly low key to start off with on that episode.
Just a tad.
So, fab episode once again from the award-winning market leader and us, I presume.
I'm guessing so.
Yeah. Reignited our FOMO from Crimbo Crawl, and as for the pod wars with beers without frontiers, you're on. Just name the time and the place, and yes, we get it. We did the Cloud Waters in the wrong order.
That could have only come from one person.
Men Behaving Badly, MBBB podcast. Thank you guys. I'm glad you enjoyed the episode. From Sophie at So Beer Blogger, who joined us on the Crimbo Crawl. Great to hear what happened after I left Crimbo Crawl 18. I'm pretty sure the minesweeping started at Lost and Grounded, though. Steve.
That could explain a hell of a lot, couldn't it?
Is she talking about you?
I think so. That may have been the apophenia, was it?
Yeah.
The triple that I was grabbing as much of it as I could.
Wasn't the triple about 8%?
Yes.
And weren't we having that at about 12:30?
It was.
Right. So the wheels were starting to be unwound, weren't they?
Yeah.
Sophie, it was a pleasure to meet you. From Points of Brew at Points of Brew. Just caught up with this. Excellent show. And thank you for the shout out from the poll. Apologies for the awkward Twitter handle, though. To be honest,
there are harder ones.
There are definitely harder ones than that one. Thanks again for the feedback on the show.
Yeah, I mean, we love it when people take the time to actually feedback on previous shows, because it's as we've always said, we take all the feedback, the good, the bad, and we use that to make what we do better.
Yeah.
So the more you feedback, the better we can make this for you.
We'll at least try.
We'll at least try. Just before we finish this evening, we kind of feel as though we've got to a point in the show's history, and it's a momentous occasion, this as well. It's a passing of the torch. It's a winning of the title. It's a crowning of a new champion.
This is the big award. This is the one.
This is the big award. We have decided the time has come for there to be a new number one fan.
This is a big moment. I just hope this person is ready for the responsibility.
I hope they are. I think they are.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Indeed it does.
Said a man once.
Indeed it does. So we're going to do this in reverse order.
Go on.
So, in third place, the former number one fan, Mr. Miles Lambert. He's a constant supporter of the show, but he has been usurped in his level of engagement over the past 12 months or so.
Second and first place had to work hard to do that.
They've had to work very hard, and it's almost a bit low they've been in a battle with each other over the first place and this imaginary title. So in second place, James at Gammon Baron, who has been involved to no end in the show throughout the last year, from everything he's got involved in.
And he's appeared at Peak Ender.
And the Crimbo Crawl.
And the Crimbo Crawl.
A gargantuan effort to get to the Crimbo Crawl from Leeds.
Yes.
With all of the public transport against him to get him there on time.
He made it to Lost and Grounded. He
still made it there. But we can proudly say our new number one fan is a listener that has got involved in pretty much every episode that we've done.
Every episode, feedback.
Year.
He's even had his own question of the week every now and again.
He has indeed, and he had his probably crowning moment at the Crimbo Crawl as well. So we're pleased to announce that our new number one fan is Paul at UNRCD.
Congratulations, Paul.
Congratulations, Paul. This is to you, my friend. We do hope you live up to the task that has been presented
because
to you.
The competition in second and third place are not going to let you rest on your laurels.
I don't think Miles is going to take this laying down.
No.
I think he's going to come back
storming
in the new year. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
it's a bit of fun, isn't it?
It is a bit of fun, but Paul is is relatively newbie to the online scene, the craft beer scene, and we met him at Cask, I think, for the first time.
Yeah.
Back in April, he came to the Crimbo Crawl with his missus, and thoroughly lovely chap.
Always supported what we've done there.
Yeah.
He's always been a supporter.
And he has got engaged with some of the other podcasts as well. I think he gets a bit of a name check on the men behaving badly. Fairly certain River and Brews has mentioned him as well.
He does, but now he's our number one fan. He's no longer allowed to do that.
It's exclusivity again.
There it is. It's about getting those exclusive rights.
Exclusivity again. So we're just making sure other people can't use them. Is that what we're doing?
That's exactly what we're doing.
Taking them out of the market.
Yeah. We've just IP'd Paul at UNRC. No one else can use him now.
That's it.
Yeah.
TM.
Yeah. But seriously though, Paul, thank you for everything that you've got involved in, and as Martin said, we even named a section of the show after you as well, because you've always got a question to ask, and don't ever let that stop, and don't ever let an award go to your head.
No, not like us.
That's all I'm going to say on that. Right, we are. I think we're nearly there. We've got a little bit left of our.
First of all, final thoughts on this one, then the final thoughts on the 4.
Okay, this is definitely my favourite of the 4. It seems to be more well-rounded. It's more balanced. It's a lot more drinkable. There's a lot more flavours going on in there as well, and there's a lot more complexity to it as well. Yeah,
I'd agree with that. I think out of all 4 of them, it's also put me firmly in mind of the barrel it's talking about. So I'm getting those tannins which you referred to earlier. I'm getting those red currant notes as well, what I'd expect from a young Pinot Noir. It is superbly drinkable. I mean, we've both fairly much got littered to nothing left. Out of the 4 of them, it is definitely the best one, but I think we're talking margins, to be honest.
Oh, absolutely. They've all been incredible.
Yeah, and thoroughly enjoyed them. So first of all, Steve, thank you for getting them. I think you said you got them from Sean at Beer Central.
Yeah.
Thank you for getting them and sharing them with me. They are... I hope they do this again.
I hope they don't.
Well, I was going to finish it off by saying if they decide to do it with another type of old ale, and let's face it, there must be some other kind of beers in both the Gale stable and the Fullers that maybe they could do something similar with, because they've executed this really well.
Well, Fullers have got their whole past masters range that they could potentially do this with.
So it's great that they're using Gales, who were dead on the feet that Fuller's brought up, and then Fuller's and Marble have decided to collaborate to do it. It's like almost 3 breweries in one.
Yeah.
So I say well done. Really enjoyed it. The Pinot Noir is my favourite.
So, same here. All of them probably start at a 4 on Untapped to me, and then it's probably increments from there on in.
Yeah, I think there'll be a couple at 4, maybe a 4.25 and a 4.5, maybe.
I think so. That's an easy shout.
Yeah.
On that one.
We've got a bit of a break coming up, Steve.
We've got a break from recording.
Yeah.
Coming up, but it doesn't mean that we're not going to be putting content out. So we're going to have a couple of shows with you in January. We're not going to reveal too much about those right now. We're going to keep them a little bit secret.
Yep.
And we're just going to drop them on you. And then we are back from the beginning of February with a whole new season coming up. We've already got a couple of guests lined up.
Yep.
For the season.
Got a few themes, a few ideas.
We've got some ideas.
That season will take us right through to Easter, won't it?
It will, and building towards our next Opinions on Films, which will be for your listening pleasure. Martin and I talking through 2.5 hours of Marvel's
Avengers Infinity
War prior to Avengers Endgame, which we now know it's called, coming out in April. So that's what you've got to look
Which I'm even more excited about, having seen the recent trailer.
Oh, yeah, we're not even going to go there. We've not even got time to go there. So all that's left to be said is once again to thank every single one of you, our listeners, for your continued support, your continued engagement, and as I said earlier on, we joke about winning an award, but that's when I say that's our award, that's everybody that's listening to this right now. We would not have won that award were it not for you. You guys continue to drive us to do this, and we love that. So continue pushing us to do more. And I think the final thing left to say is probably have a very Merry Christmas and best wishes for 2019.
Yep.
So cheers.